Chapter 1705. The distance between Mars and Earth was only 100 million kilometers. With Jiang Tian's current cultivation, he would be able to fly over in less than a day with the Kunpeng's speed. However, it would also consume a lot of his true essence. But with the rising sun, he was able to avoid this trouble. The crystal reactor was running at full speed, shooting out a straight space flame, compressing the space and forming a space curvature. The curvature stabilized and pushed the Dharma artifact forward. Its speed had reached the level of sublight speed, which was comparable to the speed of Jiang Tian's Kunpeng. When 1/3 of the journey was completed, a vast planet with life appeared in front of Jiang Tian. At this time, the mountains on Earth were clearly visible to the naked eye. If you compared it with a globe, you wouldn't believe that the blue planet in front of you was the Earth you knew. It was more than 10 times the size of the original. Other than the increase in the size of the 5 continents, on top of the original ocean, new continents were born. There was a vast expanse of greenery, which made the vegetation look extremely vigorous. Lakes were scattered everywhere and mountains were like dragons. Any one of them was higher than the Andes. Ah, what a cultivation paradise! Jiang Tian let out a long sigh, his eyes filled with deep emotions. In his previous life, he had traveled the star ocean and fought in the universe. He had seen countless bright planets, cultivated planets, and even went to the deity realm and the divine realm. However, he still missed Earth the most, because that was where his family was buried. In this life, he had lived 2 lives and his parents and family were all on Earth. He had also planted the foundation for Earth and sacrificed a lot of blood and sweat, which made his feelings for Earth even stronger. By then, he was already a nascent soul cultivator and had formed the supreme 9-orifice chaotic divine body. He was like the Son of God and had the power of a soul formation cultivator. Even in the central galaxy, he could be considered a powerful figure. Homesick. But at this moment, his mood was still the same as that of a traveler returning home. When he left, the spirit chi on Earth had just begun to recover. 4 years later, Earth had already become a spirit chi planet. Furthermore, he had experienced the invasion of the Heavenly Shepherd Divine General, the invasion of the Big Dipper Demon Clan, and the descent of the Righteous Alliance. In the past 4 years, the evolution process of a normal star might have been condensed for hundreds or even thousands of years. It was bound to bring about a great impact, fusion, and fission to the civilization on Earth. What a wonderful world! This beautiful world is worth protecting and fighting for our entire lives. Zhao Xueqing's pretty face was slightly moved, and she couldn't help but ask. In her eyes, the azure star slowly rotated in the universe like a brilliant sapphire. The spirit chi of this star was surging, and the essence chi was like a dragon. Endless Tao laws and precepts rumbled on it, making it seem like the rules were like a piece of metal, and the essence chi was incomparably condensed. There were also dragons of essence chi roaring in the sky of the Earth, thousands of miles away. The spirit chi on Earth was increasing almost all the time. In just 4 years, the spirit chi on Earth was already 3 times that of the ruins of deity, almost catching up with some famous cultivation planets in the central galaxy. Indeed, Jiang Tian had chosen a difficult path, but she thought it was all worth it. The civilization on Earth had entered a new stage. In the next 1,000 or 10,000 years, it would develop rapidly and rise rapidly, eventually standing among the stars in the universe. Is that a transformed moon? No, it's not even worth a moon. When the indestructible ship was 10 million kilometers away from Earth, the big black dog, who was squatting on the sofa in the cockpit, exclaimed and stared at the Earth in front of him with his mouth wide open. With the naked eye, he could already see that there were 3 more satellites around Earth, as if there were 3 moons. That's not the moon. Cheng Lulu, who had fully recovered and changed into a suit of crystal armor, said softly with a complicated expression on her sweet face. It wasn't that she wasn't seriously injured, but that Jiang Tian's healing methods were too powerful. He let her take some pills first and cast a few spells to recover. What's that? The big black dog was confused. The moon has fallen in the 3rd year of the spirit chi recovery. These 4 satellites are the space cities of the Beihan sect, the exiled deity hall, the Feiyang sect and the Wuji sect. Cheng Lulu said coldly with a glint of viciousness in her eyes. In fact, when she first heard from Divine Lord Taisha that the disasters on Earth in the past 2 years were all controlled by Han Ming Zongzi, Cheng Lulu felt extremely depressed. She couldn't believe it at all, or rather, she didn't want to believe it. That was because Han Ming Zongzi had hidden himself too well. He showed up as a savior and killed the nascent soul cultivators of the monster race, who made Earth tremble like a fiend god. When the Alliance of Justice and Order and the Earth's mythological alliance held a ceremony to jointly conquer the demon clan, Cheng Lulu had seen him from afar during the ceremony. Han Ming Zongzi had black hair, black clothes and black eyes. His skin was shiny and there was an air of nobility around him. He was surrounded by many big shots, like a moon surrounded by stars. As soon as he appeared, the light of the younger generation, and even the light of all the cultivators on Earth, seemed to be overshadowed by this person's light. Reclusive royalty immediately paled in comparison to the handsome young man like Ing Su. He was like a grain of rice that couldn't compete with the sun and the moon. It was like a mortal facing a heavenly god. In fact, she wasn't imagining things. As the descendant of the first emperor, Ing Su did have the aura of an emperor, but after all, he was only an emperor in the mortal world. How could he compare with the Zongzi of the divine clan who controlled a planet? There were more than 1,000 mortal kingdoms under Han Ming's command that were loyal to the Beihan sect. When those emperors of the mortal world saw him, they would all prostrate themselves in worship, just like how believers would prostrate themselves in front of a living being. It wasn't an exaggeration at all. That was the difference between mortals and immortals. That was the difference between humans and gods. In Cheng Lulu's mind, Han Ming was a great hero who could be compared with Jiang Tian. But she never expected that Han Ming, whom she worshipped as her idol and was regarded as the savior of the human race on Earth, turned out to be an ambitious schemer. He turned out to be the culprit who controlled the interstellar war and caused the deaths and injuries of millions of mortal cultivators on Earth. Looks like I can only have Tai Chu as my idol in the future. The others are all rotten flowers. Cheng Lulu reminded herself. This space city is so scary. The Blackie was shocked and its eyes widened. The spirit chi on Earth had recovered and the laws were strong. It was easy to understand why it could capture the moon into the gravitational field. However, the size of this space city was too terrifying. According to the calculation of the unsetting sun, its diameter should be 10,000 miles, which was much bigger than the original moon. I'm afraid that the Beihan sect's artifact-making skills are much better than those of the ruins of deity. Zhao Xueqing's pretty face revealed a hint of worry. Yes. Jiang Tian looked calm and didn't seem surprised at all. He said with a half-smile, but Han Ming Zongzi is a master of disguise. He is so pretentious. Zhao Xueqing said coldly, I admire the noble. I respect the ordinary. I understand cowardice. I can even understand aggression. But I can't accept hypocrisy. He is obviously despicable, shameless, and shameless, but he is wearing a noble appearance. He treats the Earth civilization as monkeys and caterpillars to play with. Looking at the humans on Earth who were slaughtered and harmed by him, they treat him as a guest, believe in him as a Buddha, and respect him as a sacred being. He must be laughing proudly. Han Ming Zongzi and the others certainly had the ability to occupy Earth. After all, there was not a single soul formation cultivator on Earth today. With their strength, if they wanted to forcibly occupy Earth, it would be as easy as snapping their fingers. However, he didn't. After cleaning up the demon race on Earth, he pretended to lead his people out and built a space city outside Earth to show his friendliness and selflessness. But in fact, on Earth, he had already established his orthodoxy and the top cultivators would become his spokespeople. Chapter 1706. That's true. Cheng Lulu was prejudiced by first impressions. She didn't understand the operation of the Big Dipper cultivators, but after Jiang Tian's reminder, she had completely seen through the layout of Han Ming Zongzi and the others. In the beginning, some powerful orthodoxies rose on Earth, such as the Boundless Dojo, the Snow God Temple, and the Desolation Temple. They were all comparable to Tianqing school. The cultivators here are all human cultivators from Earth. However, their arcane effort paths are very similar to the Boundless sect, the Heavenly Snow Hall, the Wasteland sect, and so on from the Big Dipper. And behind them all stands Godson Han Ming. When I left Earth, the Boundless Dojo, the Snow God's Palace, the Desolation Worship Temple, these newly rising Earth cultivation orthodoxies proposed to hold a grand competition with the Tianqing sect and other orthodoxies every year. Through this competition, the right to speak in the Myth Alliance would be decided. Competition? I'm afraid they want to kill. Jiang Tian's face was slightly cold. His eyes narrowed and flashed with a cold light. He sneered. If the Big Dipper cultivators directly went to fight, it would immediately cause xenophobia. But it's completely different if they use puppets as agents. Everyone will think it's an internal struggle on Earth. If these new orthodoxies on Earth beat the Tianqing school, many mortals who don't know the truth will also support them. After all, in their eyes, they are all cultivators on Earth. It's the same who's in charge. The puppets will immediately take control of the Myth Alliance. At that time, the so-called Myth Alliance will forget their oath, the purpose and rules of the establishment, and completely become a dog of the Big Dipper starfield. This Han Mingzongzi is really scheming and shrewd. Thinking about it, Chen Lulu suddenly felt a chill in her heart and shivered. It's useless. I'll break it with one punch. Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully. Senior, you're so domineering. Cheng Lulu stuck out her tongue and looked at Jiang Tian with admiration. When Jiang Tian's unsetting sun was about to enter the gravitational field of Earth, visually, the 4 space cities appeared even more vast, as if they were artificial stars. Not to mention a person, even if the rising sun city, which was hundreds of miles long, approached, it would be like a grain of rice falling on Mount Tai, not conspicuous at all. Not to mention a person. This is the space city of the Big Dipper system. The huge patterns on the space city were like rivers, filling her vision. Chen Lulu felt as small as an ant. She was nervous and suffocating, as if her phobia of gigantism had broken out. At this time, Chen Lulu also noticed that in addition to the space city, there were many large and small space fortresses floating under the night sky. They were densely packed, like the sand of the Ganges River. The space fortresses released powerful mana waves, like a giant net, enveloping the entire Earth. At this moment, a magnificent crystal warship broke away from a space fortress that was 1,000 square kilometers in size and dashed over to intercept them as fast as lightning. Stop! Qi Lian, an inner disciple of the Beihan clan, was here. This realm is under the protection of the Wintry North sect in the Mizar star zone. No one is allowed to enter without permission. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. Powerful divine sense waves came from the crystal warship. It was a nascent soul cultivator. He spoke the language of Earth 3 times and repeated it again in the language of the Big Dipper. Senior, please allow me to report. I am Cheng Lulu, a cultivator from Earth, a member of the Myth Alliance and a warrior of the Guardians of Wuxia. I was captured by the demon race, but luckily escaped and returned with a ship. This is the relevant emblem. Please don't worry. Chen Lulu stepped out of the void. She first cupped her hands in front of her chest and then took out the relevant emblem to display. Enter the space fortress and accept the inspection. Qi Lian, the nascent soul cultivator, said with a serious expression. In addition, everyone who passes the test will have to pay 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones as the clearance fee. Clearance fee? Zhao Xueqing was surprised. Sect Master, Mistress? Cheng Lulu's expression didn't change. She quickly said with her divine sense, this is a kind of crystal currency that became popular after you left. It is a hard currency and has a strong purchasing power. 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones are enough to buy the area of a county. It is true that the human cultivators of the Big Dipper fight for Earth. But they don't fight for nothing. Every time they carry out an operation, they have to take a lot of crystals from Earth as a reward. The Myth Alliance and the governments of various countries can't do anything about it. They even show an understanding attitude. After all, before the troops and horses move, the food comes first. Space battles do require a lot of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Pills, warships, magical artifacts, and so on. It is said that in just 1 year, half of the crystals on Earth have fallen into the hands of the Big Dipper cultivators. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. His eyes flashed again and he said coldly, provoking a war and making money from it. This Han Ming Zongzi is indeed a good person. With these crystals, it is too easy for the puppet forces of Earth to expand their territory. What a rebellion! Do they really think that Earth is their own backyard? They want to pluck the feathers of the goose that crosses the road? Zhao Xueqing's face turned cold. She was about to kill someone. Forget it. Jiang Tian patted her little hand, telling her not to act rashly. Zhao Xueqing had to suppress her anger and nodded. These cultivators who blocked the way were annoying, and Han Ming Zongzi had to be killed. In order to fight foreign aggression, one must first settle the internal affairs. Jiang Tian had to return to Earth to deal with the Tianqing school and gather the scattered forces. Otherwise, once the war started, they would be unable to attend to one thing and lose sight of the other. They would be held back repeatedly and would have to hold back from taking action. At this time, there was another violent fluctuation of space. A crystal warship with the symbol of the Northern Frost sect arrived quickly. It's Han Che's warship. Let's welcome him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several nascent soul cultivators immediately walked out of the intercepting warships. The leading cultivator in yellow looked respectful and panicked. He used the essence chi to form a voice in the vacuum and said loudly, I am Qi Lian, an inner sect disciple of the Northern Frost sect. I lead the guards to greet Han Che. This is my friend. Let her through. Han Xianxia's attitude was very arrogant and his cold voice was heard. Stop blabbering, do you want to die? Yes. Let her through. Qi Lian's face turned pale. Although the temperature in the vacuum of space was extremely low, as if he was in an ice cellar, he still broke out in cold sweat. With Qi Lian's order, all the restrictions were activated and a passage was formed. Thank you, Han Che. Cheng Lulu cupped her fists. You're welcome. Have a safe trip, everyone. I'll be going to Earth soon. See you again if fate allows. Although Han Xianxia pretended to be calm, he was actually terrified to the extreme. She's Kong Teichu's disciple, but she's bowing to me. She's so scary. Under Han Che's complicated gaze, Cheng Tian entered the never-setting sun. Then, the warship passed through the restriction passage, crossed the atmosphere and landed on Earth. HM? My immortal will and Dharma power seemed to be shrinking and weakening. After entering the essence chi layer of Earth, Zhao Xueqing's face suddenly changed and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 1707. I feel like I'm losing my power. Cheng Lulu exclaimed. Her face turned pale, and she panicked. She had been held captive for a year, and she didn't feel this way on Earth. Therefore, it was very strange and unexpected. Thus, I feel the same. The big black dog also looked frightened and cried out. It seems that the gravity field around me is also increasing, and the air pressure is also increasing. It's like a huge rock is pressing down on me, making me unable to release my terrible power. It makes me, who can shock the world and make ghosts and gods cry, become ordinary and ordinary. Lulu, your feeling of losing power is wrong. It's just that you can't use your magical power, and the range is reduced. And Qinger and the big black dog feel closer to the truth. Jiang Tian's eyes were deep, containing the wisdom of 10,000 years of cultivation in his previous life. But it's not the truth. This is the strengthening of the law. Finally, he showed a touch of joy and said with emotion. In short, as the spirit qi on Earth recovers for more and more time, its law has become stronger. It seems that the defense of Earth has become stronger. In fact, when we entered the ruins of immortality, we also had this feeling, but it was not so obvious. I also feel that the range of my divine sense, magical power is only 1/10 of the original or even lower. At this time, the rising sun had turned off the crystal reactor. Without accelerating, it landed on Earth by its own weight. But the gravity was too strong, and the falling speed was too fast, like a meteor hitting Earth. Zhao Xueqing quickly turned on the crystal reactor and adjusted the reverse speed to slow down the falling speed. However, everyone still felt as if there was a huge boulder weighing 1,000 kilograms pressing down on them with every move they made. Don't panic. Jiang Tian used to be able to summon the primordial qi within 1,000 miles, but at this time, he could only mobilize the primordial qi within 100 miles, and it was still decreasing to dozens of miles. But this doesn't mean that our power has weakened. Our power hasn't changed at all. It's just that the power of heaven and earth has become stronger, and the primordial qi law has become stronger. As long as we are in this world, we will be suppressed by this law. There is no exception. The place where we landed should be the original Bohai Bay. Jiang Tian scanned the terrain of the mountains and rivers below and came to a conclusion. At this time, the land of Wuxia was already 10 times or even dozens of times larger than before. The Taihang Mountains, the Dabi Mountains, the Yan Mountains, all of them had towering peaks, just like the original Himalayas. In fact, they were even taller and more majestic. Moreover, there used to be a vast plain between the Taihang Mountains and the Dabi Mountains. But now, there were a few mountains that were as huge as dragons. After the recovery of spirit qi, the mountains and topography of Earth had undergone earth-shaking changes. 30,000 meters, 50,000 meters, 30,000 meters, the rising sun was getting closer and closer to the ground. This was a sea. The rising sun ship ejected a long space flame and slowly stabilized its landing. After that, Jiang Tian led everyone out of the cabin. Using the art of all creation, they shrank and put away the ship. Stepping on a flying sword, they rushed towards the continent, leaving a long white trail on the water surface. Roar! A weird-shaped fish, at least 100 meters long, with dense scales like a real dragon. Its huge fins were like layers of rolling clouds. It suddenly roared, opened its huge mouth like the abyss of hell, and bit towards Jiang Tian and the others. What a big fish, so scary! But it's delicious. Bang! The big black dog laughed strangely and jumped out. It shook its body and turned into a purple gold dragon. It opened its bloody mouth and directly swallowed the strange fish. However, Jiang Tian's face was slightly awe-inspiring. A mere demonic beast actually had the strength of a gold core. If it was in the ruins of immortality, its attack would be enough to set off monstrous waves within 100 miles. However, after the recovery of spirit qi on Earth, it only caused a fluctuation within a range of 10 miles. This was still the reason why the Great Tao laws were strengthened because of the recovery of spirit qi on Earth. At this time, Jiang Tian's heart was heavy. Before the recovery of spirit qi, gold core cultivators were invincible existences in the world. At that time on Earth, only Yu Wendan of the Pre-Qin dynasty and the 9 elders of Hongmeng had reached the gold core realm. But now, a fish monster and a tiger both had the strength of a gold core realm cultivator. He didn't know if humans could face such a challenge. Let's go back to the Wuxia Guardians Alliance first. I have to send Lulu back. Jiang Tian's expression was complicated. Finally, he made a decision. In fact, the Real foundation of Tianqing School was Sidoni. His grandfather, parents, sister Ziwei, Huang Linger's many comrades and disciples were all there. However, Jiang Tian always remembered that he was a descendant of Yan Huang. He was more concerned about the situation of Wuxia's cultivation world. He didn't know if the Wuxia Guardians Alliance was running smoothly and if it still maintained its independence. After flying for a while, they finally arrived in Wuxia. What a sight! The mountains were majestic. Ancient trees covered the sky and the sun. Old vines covered the earth. Clouds and mist lingered between the mountain peaks. A black goshawk with a wingspan of 100 meters. Its feathers flickered with cold light, and its claws were like peerless heavenly hooks. It was majestic and awe-inspiring. It swooped into the forest. When it rose again, a giant python about 100 meters long was struggling between its claws. The mountains were either lofty and steep, imposing, or protruding and towering. Silver waterfalls fell from the mountain peaks like waterfalls. It was a vast expanse of white and incomparably magnificent. Between the cliffs, all kinds of spirit herbs and orchids climbed and swayed. Longevity apes climbed the holy mountain. Cranes soared among the white clouds. Colorful deers leaped with lingji in their mouths. There were also many rare birds and strange beasts that couldn't be named. Cheelants, giant apes, and other rare demon beasts could be seen everywhere at this time. This was a vast, mysterious, and primitive scene. Everyone seemed to have stepped into a wild world. As they went deeper into the hinterland, they could gradually see cities and towns. Some cities and towns had already been cruelly destroyed in the demon race's invasion. Between the dilapidated walls, there were few traces of people. Weeds grew everywhere. It was incomparably desolate. Wild beasts roamed and wreaked havoc. Those wild dogs' eyes flickered with green light. They were extraordinarily ferocious and were even taller than calves. But even more majestic cities rose from the ground. The high-rise buildings were incomparably thick and heavy. They were easily 1,000 meters tall. Runes flickered and suffused with resplendent light. The mana fluctuations were intense, like celestial palaces. Moreover, there were troops stationed there. They pulled out long lines of defense, and all kinds of fortresses were everywhere. And Jiang Tian had already noticed that those ordinary soldiers were often at least at the body refinement and chi refinement stage. Their bodies were robust and their auras surged. They could leap as if they were flying, and their strength was as great as a mountain. There were also many high-level cultivators who rode on swords and flew through the air, patrolling everywhere. They had actually reached the foundation establishment stage. This city, if I remember correctly, should be called Cape City. It was originally only a small city, but there are at least 100 foundation establishment cultivators overseeing it. Wuxia, it's safe. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, his heart greatly at ease. He had seen it more than once. In one city after another, there were people who couldn't wait for the bus. They jumped up, like scallions on dry land, and jumped onto the double-decker buses that were a few meters high. In some parks, old men wearing silk training clothes practiced Tai Chi. Sometimes they were like old apes circling trees. Sometimes they were like red-crowned cranes dancing in the sky. Their movements were round and natural, and they had actually reached the chi refinement stage. In some dojos, children of 5 or 6 years old all had a strict bearing. Their small faces were solemn as they followed their masters to practice sword dao and martial arts. They were the basic cultivation methods that Tianqing School had previously announced. Although demon beasts appeared in the wilderness, and they were very ferocious and powerful. But they were all blocked outside the city. In the city, people lived leisurely and orderly lives. Moreover, with the growth of spirit chi, the number of people who cultivated increased greatly. Almost all schools opened cultivation courses, and some private dojos were even more popular. In the invasion of the demon race, all the countries in the world suffered heavy losses. Only Wuxia had a solid foundation, sufficient preparations, and abundant cultivators. Apart from the cultivation world, there weren't many casualties among mortals. Now, it's also the fastest to recover. Government orders are smooth, the world is peaceful, and the people live and work in peace. Chen Lulu said with deep emotion. How difficult it is to prosper a country. Jiang Tian said proudly. In modern times, Wuxia was once poor and weak. Its technology and system were backward. In the face of the invasion of the global powers, our ancestors shed blood and sweat. In the end, we obtained national liberation and comprehensive economic and social development. After these hardships, the people of Wuxia have the ability and courage to deal with great changes. Moreover, the system is superior, and the leadership is good, so we can concentrate on doing big things. This is the first major change since ancient times. We overtook the curve and caught up with them. In order to avoid attracting attention, Jiang Tian cast an invisibility spell and went straight into Wuxia. He rushed to the headquarters of the Wuxia Defenders Alliance in the suburbs of Beijing. Chapter 1708. In the end, when the curtain of night fell, Jiang Tian arrived near the Wuxia Defender Alliance's encampment. He and Zhao Xueqing used the art of creation and changed their appearances slightly. They landed on the street while Chung Lulu put on her sunglasses. The sunglasses were also a small artifact that could block the detection of divine senses. This Wild Goose Lake club actually changed into a cultivation-themed bar? Chung Lulu scanned the surroundings, and her sweet face revealed a strange expression. She had only left for a year, but she also discovered that this place had undergone earth-shattering changes. The original restaurants and shops had all been changed into spirit pills and magic tool trading places, as well as various cultivation-related clubs, bars, and training halls. The place was bustling with noise and excitement. On the bustling street, shop doors were opened, and someone used a loudspeaker to shout, "Child, if you want to cultivate, quickly come to Qingqing's tutoring class. We have professional foundation establishment teachers, and the subjects cover alchemy, artificing, and sword Dao." According to past data, after the tutoring class training, the enrollment rate of freshmen increases by 80%, and there is a chance to directly enter the boundless training hall. Daoist Floating Cloud talks about how to successfully reach foundation establishment under harsh conditions. Today, the Desolation Temple is giving a lecture on the Watch Me broadcast channel. You only need to pay 5,000 crystals to obtain the personal guidance of a master for one-on-one teaching. At the same time, a different voice was heard. What's so great about cultivating? Martial Dao is the strongest in the world. No matter how many changes you make and how many spells you use, I will break them with a single punch. The Longwei Martial Arts Club opens its doors to poor students without cultivation aptitude. My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. That's how domineering it is. These two training institutions seem to adhere to different philosophies, and they were on opposite sides of the same street. All kinds of shouting across the air made the passers-by stare blankly. All kinds of details, many vivid scenes, and a thick aura of cultivation civilization hit the face. At this time, everyone passed by a restaurant. A waiter wearing an apron said with a smile, "Dear guests, even if you haven't cultivated to Anidia, you still have to eat. Tonight, our head chef is introducing 8 treasures rare tiger meat and steamed 1,000-year-old Chinese turtle essence meat. Welcome to come in and taste." Chinese turtle essence? Originally, when the big black dog heard that there was demonic beast delicacies to eat, his mouth was drooling. But all of a sudden, he was attracted by a small advertisement on a telephone pole that offered a high price for a child. This advertisement has already been notarized by the city's Cultivation Association. It has legal effect. Madame Wang, 28 years old, 172 meters tall, voluptuous and charming, warm and cheerful personality, good at dual cultivation. My husband is an Oris Core Stage Grandmaster. Because of Qi deviation, he lost the ability to reproduce. In order to inherit the huge family business, after discussion, I'm looking for a healthy man to conceive and fulfill my mother's dream. If I'm satisfied with the call, I'll send you a deposit of 200,000 middle-grade spirit stones as soon as possible. If you're pregnant, I'll give you another 800,000 middle-grade spirit stones as a reward. Phone number, XXXX. There was a beautiful woman printed on the advertisement, and the large black dog was dazed upon seeing this. Scammers nowadays are really keeping up with the times. Will Qin Shi Huang revive and give me money? Below the advertisement for a child, there was an advertisement for a son-in-law. The capital's wealthy Cheng family is looking for a son-in-law. The man is 25 to 35 years old, 8 meters tall and above, unmarried, and his cultivation level must not be lower than the early stage of foundation establishment. He's good at alchemy, a disciple of a famous sect, and has participated in the Earth Defense War. If both parties are suitable, the woman's family will immediately send 80,000 middle-grade spirit stones and a middle-grade spirit treasure as dowry, and provide the man with 300 ordinary caves with complete facilities. It's changed. It's changed too much. It's completely different from when I left 2 years ago. It's changing with each passing day. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent moon shape, and she sighed with emotion. It's full of vitality, and it's advancing at a rapid pace. Jiang Tian, however, felt very gratified. He had gone through a lot of hardships, went deep into various dimensions, and looked for the seeds of revival. He stood his ground against the opinions of the masses and swept away many opposing forces. Finally, he had planted the eternal Dao foundation for Earth and revived the spiritual aura. What he wanted to see was the current golden age of cultivation. What he wanted was for everyone to be able to cultivate, reach a new level of life, and give birth to a powerful cultivation civilization. Senior, let's go to the Guiyan Lake Bar. It's a place where the members of the League of Guardians often go in and out. We should be able to get a feel of the current situation easily. Finally, after walking around, Chung Lulu suggested. But Jiang Tian nodded slightly, and there was nothing wrong with that. The group of people entered the Guiyan Lake Bar with the big black dog. Our shop has recently launched a new version of Green Flame Vodka, which is most suitable for foundation establishment cultivators. Mortals will immediately be burned to death after drinking it, and Qi refinement cultivators will have gastric perforation after drinking it. There's also a big demon steak. Would you like to try it, sir and miss? The bartender immediately came up to them and said with a smile on his face. But Jiang Tian ordered some food and drinks, and while eating, he glanced around. There were many cultivators gathered here, and a few of them even wore the emblem of the Wuxia League of Guardians. However, whether it was Jiang Tian, his wife, or Chung Lulu, they felt very unfamiliar and did not know who they were. The new generation was replacing the old, and it was said that the Wuxia League of Guardians already had tens of thousands of people, and the area of their base had expanded by 10 times. On an empty space in the bar, there was a holographic projection TV that was playing a talk show approaching cultivation. 10 days ago, a three-eyed violent ape that weighed more than 10 tons appeared in the Hengduan Mountains. It was said to be a primordial species. In just 10 days, this three-eyed violent ape had already killed more than 230 cultivators, including 3 false core cultivators. It was said that even the Southwest Army's small Kualian controllable nuclear fusion weapons could not kill it. However, at 3 o'clock in the morning today, this heinous three-eyed violent ape was successfully killed by the Kunlun sect's Zhongzi, Ji Mingxuan. Now, let's contact the Kunlun sect's Zhongzi, Golden Core Cultivator, Ji Mingxuan, who is still slaying demons in the Hengduan Mountains, and let him talk about the situation at that time. The host said excitedly. Jiang Tian felt that the name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember who it was. He is the son of the Kunlun sect's former sect master, Ji Muxian. Cheng Lulu explained hurriedly, her beautiful eyes filled with disbelief. However, during the battle between Senior and the famous preaching sects, at the beginning of the counterattack, Yi Karen used the basic sword technique that Senior had announced and defeated Ji Muxian with one strike, destroying his Dantian and Cultivation to avenge Yi Zhantian. In the past few years after the recovery of Spirit Qi, Senior Li Wuji, who had ascended to the Golden Core level, regained control of Kunlun and cooperated with the Tianqing School and the Mythological Alliance to suppress the cultivation world of Huaxia. Ji Muxian and his son were expelled from Kunlun, and they took Yu Hui and other Kunlun outcasts to live in seclusion. Why are they back now? So it's him. Jiang Tian took a sip of the Green Flame vodka and finally had an impression of it. It all started when Jiang Tian entered the West Earth dimension. Ji Muxian of the Kunlun sect wanted to compete with Jiang Tian for control of the Huaxia Guardians Alliance. During a martial arts competition, he suddenly used a killer move and severely injured Yi Zhantian, becoming the real controller of the Huaxia Guardians Alliance. Later, when the famous preaching sects rose, the ambitious Ji Muxian chose to cooperate with them to stop Jiang Tian from recovering Spirit Qi and compete for the position of Mythological Alliance's leader. At that time, it was impossible for Li Wuji to control him. In the end, it was Yi Karen who severely injured Ji Muxian and destroyed his Dantian, but he didn't kill him. Instead, he let him leave with Ji Mingxuan, Yi Hui, and the others. After all, he was Yi Karen's teacher, and Yi Karen also cared about their old friendship. He remembered that Ji Mingxuan was just a foundation establishment cultivator at that time, but 4 years later, he had also reached the golden core level. It's the duty of a cultivator to slay demons and protect mortals. As the son of a famous sect, this is what I should do. There's nothing to say. On the holographic light screen, a handsome young man in a Daoist robe with an unruly face appeared. He snorted proudly and said, "Don't worry." He sneered and said, "However, I need to make one thing clear. The demon beasts are wreaking havoc, the demon race is causing chaos, and the human race has suffered heavy losses. Kong Teichu has an unshirkable responsibility. As the saying goes, those who are not of our kind are bound to have different intentions. The demon race is cruel, but Kong Teichu took in the moon-worshipping wolf clan, the sea clan, and other demon races as his subordinates and formed the mythological alliance. This is called nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity. The human race on Earth relaxed their vigilance and gave the demon race an opportunity to take advantage of. Now everyone has seen how many cultivators died when the Big Dipper demon race invaded. How many cities were destroyed in a day? How many people lost their homes and families? These dead cultivators and mortals, this blood feud, half of it should be blamed on the Big Dipper demon race, and the other half should be blamed on Kong Teichu. Kong Teichu is the sinner of Earth. Hearing this, Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold, but his face was calm. He took a sip of the green flame vodka without batting an eyelid. This kid, how dare he slander me like this and distort the truth? He's too hateful. Cheng Lulu was so angry that her face turned pale and her eyes were about to spit fire. Chapter 1709. Wow, Ji Mingchuan is back. Our Chuan is handsome, has a high cultivation level and is from a famous sect. He's perfect. His cultivation level has skyrocketed since he came out of seclusion. He must have killed more than 20 golden core beasts. This record is enough to show disdain for the world. Even Kong Teichu wasn't so powerful back then. In the bar, a few female cultivators immediately cheered and discussed, as if they were fans facing their idol. In fact, the cultivators on Earth were like celebrities in the past. They would practice spells and kill demons on live broadcast, capturing countless fans and being followed by billions of people. What's so great about a golden core cultivator? I've eaten at least 800 golden core cultivators, if not 1,000. I'll swallow his golden core in one gulp. The big black dog ordered a plate of cold Chinese turtle essence and ate heartily. His face was even darker with anger. Of course, now the Kunlun sect and the Boundless Dojo are working together to cultivate cultivators on Earth. And Ji Mingchuan has received personal guidance from the dojo master of the Boundless Dojo. Those are cultivators from other planets. Yeah, cultivators from other planets are really amazing. Any one of them is at least a golden core cultivator, and there are countless nascent soul cultivators. How can the men on Earth compare to them? Especially when the Boundless Dojo and cultivators from other planets were mentioned, the female cultivators in the bar were even more excited. Are cultivators from other planets so good? Cheng Lulu looked gloomy. That's not strange. Jiang Tian couldn't help but smile bitterly and sigh. In 2018, in his previous life, even billionaires were like this. They looked up to foreigners psychologically, and their national pride hadn't been established yet. Especially in the upper-class society, they urgently needed to be recognized by the West. Those who were into music spent money to perform in Vienna's Golden Hall. Those who were involved in commercials had to find a few foreigners to appear in the screen. This was taught by professors, as if with the help of Westerners, things were real money. After studying hard for more than 10 years, they might not even be able to show their foreign passport during the college entrance examination. Universities even asked students to clean the dormitories for foreign students. At that time, even a white loser could do well in Wuxia, not to mention the rich or nobles from other countries. Even a lazy black man could wantonly harvest a lot of easy girls in Wuxia, and his mother-in-law was proud of it. Before a true sense of national pride was established, it was inevitable that they would worship foreigners. Moreover, they were now facing powerful alien cultivators. I'm afraid that this person isn't unaware of the Big Dipper Demon Clan's arrival. Instead, he's opportunistic and has chosen to side with the Big Dipper demon clan for the sake of profit. Staring at Ji Mingchuan on the screen, Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes emitted traces of coldness as she mocked. "Don't be agitated." Jiang Tian smiled and patted Zhao Xueqing's hand as if he didn't hear Ji Mingchuan's provocation. However, Kang Teichu is, after all, the pioneer of the revival of spirit qi. He has also announced more than 30 sets of basic cultivation techniques and planted the foundation of Earth for all eternity. These achievements can't be erased, right? The host asked with a smile. The revival of spirit qi was only to save the life of his pregnant wife. Do you think Kang Teichu is so kind and selfless? At that time, 9 dragons of spirit qi came from all over the world, from the famous mountains and rivers of Huaxia Strait to Sidoni's Tianqing School. Didn't you see it? Ji Mingchuan's words were sharp and harsh as he said mercilessly. Who is the biggest beneficiary of the revival of spirit qi? Kang Teichu's family, the Tianqing School. He drew 90% of the spirit qi on Earth to the Tianqing School and gave it to his wife and children. If the spirit qi hadn't been drawn away, the famous mountains and rivers of Huaxia, such as Kunlun and Wudong, would have been refined to the limit and flourished. They would have the strength to fight against the demon race and wouldn't have suffered so many losses. As for the cultivation techniques you mentioned, you also said that they are basic cultivation techniques. Ji Mingchuan said with disdain. Why would Kang Teichu show the real secret cultivation techniques to others? Kang Teichu's cultivation techniques are nothing compared to those of the Wuxia sect and the Beihan sect. They are the worst of the worst. Let me tell you this once. I tried to practice the basic sword technique of the Tianqing school, but my progress was very slow. After a year of practice, I still couldn't make a breakthrough. However, I practiced the Beihan sect's sword technique and reached the golden core level within a year. I could kill 10 miles with one strike. Shameless! Chen Lulu was so angry that her body trembled. Her face turned pale and she clenched her fists. The wine glass made of jade shattered into pieces. This kid is so good at changing the subject. Blackie gritted his teeth and said, "That's right." Back then, Jiang Tian had led most of the spirit qi to the Tianqing school, which led to the appearance of the 9 dragons and the appearance of the phoenix, which shocked the world. But Zhao Xueqing and Jiang Tian had sacrificed a lot to protect Earth over the years. How many difficult battles had they been through? Jiang Tian went straight into the star ocean, crossed galaxies and traveled 4 light years to reach the 2 stars south gate, and opened up the battlefield in the ruins of deity. Jiang Tian had gone through more than 4 years of arduous battles. He had killed over 100 divine transformation godlords before finally suppressing the empire of the ruins of immortality. He defeated the stronger ones with his own strength and washed away the humiliation of 10,000 years. He freed billions of enslaved natives of the deity ground and established peace for Earth. Zhao Xueqing fought against more than 100 divine transformation realm cultivators from the ruins of immortals alone. She fought with her life on the line. If it weren't for the Tianqing school and Jiang Tian and his wife, Earth would have been occupied by the expedition army of the ruins of deity. The story of the invasion of the monsters and the arrival of the cultivators of the Beidu sect wouldn't have happened. What did Ji Mingchuan do during the invasion of the ruins of deity? He didn't do anything. He could only do whatever he wanted on Earth, but here he was, talking about the world with a superior attitude. Did he deserve it? Was he qualified? Is the effect so obvious? The host was shocked and said in disbelief, "So, at least for some cultivators, the cultivation arts of the Beihan sect are much more effective than the basic sword arts of the Tianqing school." In fact, 100% of the cultivators feel the same way. The human cultivators of the Beidu sect are the real selfless ones. Han Ming and Zhongzi are the pacifists of the universe. Jiang Taichu was only trying to gain fame by deceiving the world for his own benefit. The gap is too big. Ji Mingchuan flattered again and worshipped the Beihan sect and the other civilizations of the Beidu sect. I knew it. He has become the loyal dog of the Beihan sect. At this moment, Chen Lulu didn't want to say anything more. There was only sadness in her heart. In any era, in any race, there were despicable people who acted as the lackeys of other races for their own benefit. There's an evaluation in the cultivation world that Kong Teichu has done a lot to restore the spirit qi, and it's enough to be recorded in history. However, it was a big mistake to include the monsters when forming the mythical alliance. So, the merits should be equal. What do you think? But the interview in the holographic video was still going on. The host asked with a smile. I'm not a cultivation historian, so I won't comment. Ji Mingchuan spoke confidently and mockingly to the camera. I just want to say that even if Kong Teichu has made indelible contributions, it's all history. However, that was history. It was the past. But now, there are many new people and many of them have reached the golden core or even the nascent soul level. This is a new era, not his era. Besides, the cultivators of the Beidou sect once said that there are more than 100 soul formation cultivators in the ruins of immortality. Kong Teichu and Zhao Xueqing might have died there. But there's no need to worry. The ruins of immortality is already facing a disaster and the stars are out of control. This civilization only has 30 years to live. If there are really more than 100 soul formation cultivators, I'm afraid Kong Teichu and his wife won't be able to support them. The host nodded worriedly and showed some pity. Cheng Lulu noticed that the cultivators in the bar didn't react at all, as if Jiang Tian's death had nothing to do with them. She couldn't help but feel sad inside. The world doesn't know Kong Teichu. Humans are so forgetful. Chapter 1710. So what if they occupy the ruins of immortality? After all, many planets in the ruins of immortality will turn into ashes under the expansion of the stars. Does it make any sense? Ji Mingchuan shook his head and said with disdain. That is to say, Kong Teichu set up a wrong target from the very beginning. The civilization of the ruins of immortality is nothing to worry about. The real enemy is the Big Dipper monster clan, or rather, all monster clans. He continued, I even suspect that Kong Teichu and his wife knew about the invasion of the Beidou monsters in advance and ran to the ruins of immortality because they were scared. Unfortunately, they avoided the wolves and walked into the tiger's den. Who can they blame? A cultivator not only needs to be powerful, but also has to be smart. Otherwise, he's just a boorish man. Unfortunately, Kong Teichu doesn't have that. That's enough, little Cheng. Future generations will judge whether or not you have done anything wrong. Seeing Cheng Lulu's cold face, trembling body and tears in her eyes, Jiang Tian smiled and tried to persuade her. He had already become indifferent to honor and disgrace and didn't take Ji Mingchuan's words to heart. His words were like an ant roaring at a dragon. They didn't cause any ripples in Jiang Tian's heart at all. In the Myth Alliance competition half a month ago, you represented the Wuxia dojo and defeated Sasaki Kaisha of Tianqing School. Do you have anything to say? The host asked again. It's simple. The cultivation civilization of the Beidou monsters is better than that of Tianqing School. That's all. Ji Mingchuan said with an arrogant and domineering face, as if he had the pearl of wisdom in his hand. Next, we'll represent the Wuxia dojo and the Beidou inheritance and defeat all the disciples of Tianqing School. All right then. We wish Daoist priest Ji the best of luck in the competition in a few days, and hope that you'll be able to shine again. The host ended the interview. Then, some news was broadcasted and commented, most of which were related to the cultivation world. Jiang Tian already knew about the news and the discussions of the cultivators around him. Zhao Xueqing had killed the expedition army of the divine general of the ruins of immortality on Mars and had been deliberately erased. These achievements were not spread to Earth at all. At least, they were not recognized by the government or the mythological alliance. And when the Myth Alliance fought against the Big Dipper demon race, the 9 elders of Hongmeng, Wei Feilong's 3 disciples, and Yi Tianren had all fallen. Jiang Tian's direct descendants had been severely weakened. At that moment, the Assyrian king of the Tower of Babel, the new King Geoffrey, and the king of the pyramid, Seti, seemed to have received help from the gods. Their cultivation levels skyrocketed, and they entered the nascent soul realm in a day. Together, They suppressed old Buddha Lotus, Huaqing Tian, Li Wuji, and the others, seizing control of the Myth Alliance. Jeffrey, who was only 20 years old, was elected as the leader of the alliance. After that, Ji Muxian also became the chosen one of the Kunlun sect. Within a day, his dantian was repaired and he stepped into the nascent soul stage. He defeated the ancestral patriarch of the Kunlun sect, Li Wuji, and became the sect leader of the Kunlun sect and the leader of the Alliance of Guardians of Huaxia. In the eyes of the world, these were top secrets. It was as if they were just an internal conflict of the Myth Alliance. But Jiang Tian didn't need to think to know that this was the support of Han Ming Zongzi and the other so-called Righteous Alliance. After the situation stabilized, the 4 top holy clans, including the North Frost clan, arrived like saviors. They led the Myth Alliance, the Huaxia Guardians, and other forces to start a war to protect Earth. They swept through and drove away the demons. Tianqing School, Kunlun sect, Wudong sect, Diansong sect, and many other sections. The Flood Alliance around the world can't do it. They fought for more than a year and suffered heavy casualties, but they still can't defeat the Big Dipper demon race. Yes, even Heavenly Star, Heavenly State, and the West Earth dimension can't withstand a single blow. They can't defeat the Big Dipper demon race. The key is that Kong Teichu can't. Didn't Ji Mingchuan say that the cultivation art he released is too weak? As the saying goes, a soldier is weak, but a general is weak. On the other hand, Jeffrey and Ji Muxian were powerful and talented. With the help of the Big Dipper Righteous Alliance, they wiped out the Big Dipper demon race in just a month. Sigh, Kong Teichu's era is really over. It's time to turn the page. When talking about the invasion of the aliens in the past 2 years and the war to protect Earth, the female cultivators next to them were all disdainful of Jiang Tian and the Tianqing school. Instead, they regarded the alien cultivators and the New Myth Alliance as sacred beings and had a very high opinion of them. The episode of Going to Cultivation had come to an end, but a few pieces of news caught Jiang Tian's attention. After the Myth Alliance declared war on all demon clans, the Tianqing sect still took in Earth's demon clans at the risk of universal condemnation, such as Fox Demon by Sujuan and Great Demon Equal to Heaven. Under the repeated orders of the Myth Alliance, the acting sect master, Jiang Changing, ignored the persuasion of the Big Dipper cultivators and still insisted that the demons on Earth had fought to protect Earth and that their historical contribution couldn't be denied. He refused to hand over the demons. Besides, he wanted to fight for the survival rights of the demons on Earth. The leader of the Myth Alliance, Jeffrey, will start the last round of negotiations with the Tianqing school in 3 days. The Snow God Temple spent 10 billion superior-grade crystals to buy the shares of Watch Me. But the chairman, Zhang Yilin, refused. Watch Me, shone after the recovery of Spirit Qi and the number of registered users kept increasing. It has broadcast tens of thousands of battles to protect Earth and has become the world's top media group. After hearing the news, Jiang Tian thought for a while and said in a low voice, we're going to split up now. I'll get the Dharma artifact left by the Scorpio Divine Lord and make it public to the world. Then, I'll suppress the puppet dojos of the Beihan sect and kill Ji Muxian and the others. You, go to the Tianqing school immediately. I'm worried that the negotiation with Jeffrey is fake and the battle is real. You have to go and take charge. We have to settle our internal problems before we fight foreign aggression. If we don't get rid of these lackeys of the Alliance of Justice and Order in advance, they will cause trouble behind our backs when we fight with Han Ming and the others. We have to be careful. Okay. In fact, Zhao Xueqing really wanted Jiang Tian to go back to the main dojo of the Sidoni Tianqing school with her and gather with her daughter and parents. However, she knew that Jiang Tian cared about the world. Since he had made a decision as his good wife, she had to support him and not drag him down. Be careful. Our daughter and I are waiting for you to come home. At the door of the bar, Zhao Xueqing tucked Jiang Tian's collar. Her clear and beautiful eyes were full of affection as she said goodbye to Jiang Tian. I'm not afraid of Han Ming, Zongzi, and the others. Not to mention their puppets and henchmen. It's just that this kid is too vicious and has deceived many cultivators on Earth. Therefore, I have to announce the truth and kill them one by one after some screening. Jiang Tian said lightly. Hubby, I believe in you. You are the most powerful man under the starry sky. Zhao Xueqing's clone looked up at Jiang Tian with an expression of reverence and adoration. She smiled sweetly with extreme satisfaction, but she sighed with melancholy in her heart. She didn't know why, but after returning from the ruins of immortality, he seemed to have some estrangement and distance with her. Along the way, he rarely touched her, let alone made love. Originally, she wanted to give birth to another child for him. Hubby, I'm leaving first. Putting away her thoughts, Zhao Xueqing stepped into the air and made an invisibility spell. She stepped on a flying sword and flew in the direction of the Tianqing school at lightning speed. At this moment, she was eager to return home. Coincidentally, Divine Lord Scorpio sealed the Dharma artifact of the image imprint in the secret realm of the Yin sect, Langyi Academy. Watching Qinger disappear into the horizon, Jiang Tian murmured with a faint smile, "That's right. I wonder how much Du Guxiao, who was half a step away from the immortal state 10 years ago, has improved his cultivation. That guy is quite talented. Plus, with the recovery of spirit qi, he must have stepped into the foundation establishment or even the core formation level." Chapter 1711. Du Guxiao, a disciple of the Yin sect in the Hengduan Mountains, was the first disciple of the Yin sect that Jiang Tian had met since he was reborn. Tang Linglong had killed many of the Cherry Blossom Society's whalers in the East China Sea and caused a huge commotion. She was persecuted by the newly risen Condor team and was sent to Japan for trial. Jiang Tian took the blame on behalf of his disciple and went to Japan to suppress the Japanese cultivation world in the name of trial. And on the sea to East Ocean, Jiang Tian met an incomparably coquettish young man who was riding a whale and killing whaling ships, Du Guxiao. In Japan, Jiang Tian, Du Guxiao, and Yi Zhantian dominated the Japanese cultivation world and fought to their heart's content. Jiang Tian really dominated East Asia in that battle and became famous all over the world. But after the battle, Du Guxiao was taken back to his sect by Daoist master Qing Mu and never saw him again. The cultivators of the Yin sect had always been aloof from the world and focused on cultivation. They were even more low-key than the reclusive royalty. The 9 elders of Hongmeng were only a few. Regarding this, Jiang Tian also had an understanding attitude. Who would have thought that when the nest was overturned, no egg would remain intact? They still couldn't escape the turmoil of the world. After the spirit qi recovery, many ancient mystic realms on Earth, including those of the Langyi Academy, were affected by the changes of the laws of heaven and earth. When the Big Dipper demon clan invaded, these secret realms that were rich in spirit energy naturally became the targets that the demon clan wanted to occupy the most. They fell one after another. On the other hand, the cultivators of Langyi Academy were rather lucky. In the end, they managed to escape from the siege of many demons. After Heavenly Scorpion Lord and the others were expelled, Du Guxiao and the others returned to their mystic realms. At the same time, the forces of the Beihan sect also moved in. However, Heavenly Scorpion Lord hid the Dharma artifact with a secret technique and left it in the Langyi Academy. But Du Guxiao and the cultivators of the Beihan sect didn't know about it. Heavenly Scorpion Emperor also played a trick on him. Who would have thought that the evidence that Han Ming Zongzi was trying so hard to find was right under their feet on Earth? From the capital to the Hengduan Mountains, we have to cross almost half of Wuxia. I'm afraid we'll meet many old friends along the way. Jiang Tian stroked his chin and muttered to himself. But since we're in Beijing, we should go and see Zhang Yilin. The Snow God Palace that wants to buy my livestream is actually the puppet of the Snow God Palace on Earth. They are also the henchmen of the Beihan sect. I'm afraid they don't come with good intentions. I have to go take a look. In the next moment, Jiang Tian flicked his sleeve and disappeared with Cheng Lulu. Beijing, Fragrant Mountain, Yuhua Villa. More than 10 years ago, this was the residence of the Bai family, one of the 6 great aristocratic families in the capital. The mistress of the residence, Hao Hongmei, was the younger sister of Hao Taichong of the Mount Shu sword sect. Among them, the Shuangqing villa had 2 spiritual veins, and was blessed by the heavens. After the fall of the Bai family, this villa became Jiang Tian's residence in China. It helped Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing achieve breakthroughs a few times. It was only when Sidoni's strategic shift that he left the villa and gave it to his grandfather, Zhang Jinghua's family. After the revival of spirit qi, the 2 spirit veins that had been depleted were rejuvenated and spirit springs gushed out. In the past 5 years, this place had become a famous cultivation ground because of the concentration of spirit qi and the ease of enlightenment. In the whole of Huaxia, there were countless rich and powerful people who couldn't wait to spend a lot of money to buy a small villa here. Then, he would send the disciples of the family who had the potential to cultivate here to cultivate. There were also many old people who lived there. Old Zheng, are you out practicing martial arts again? Brother son, you haven't rested either. That's right. Recently, my son asked a master for advice and gave me a method to train my muscles and bones. Although I'm old and can't cultivate qi like the young people, I think it's good to train my muscles and bones and live for another 20 or 30 years. I won't let down the good intentions of the younger generation. In a square halfway up the mountain, a few old men were greeting each other. They were wearing clothes made of velvet silk, tailored to fit. The material and workmanship were obviously not industrial products on the market. The old men all had white hair, but their backs were straight. They walked as if they were flying and their spirits were very good. They climbed the mountain together to cultivate. Grandpa Jing, Grandpa son, don't go up. Something happened at the Shuangqing villa. Near the Shuangqing villa, a few young people suddenly walked down the mountain in a hurry. They showed fear and panic and reminded them repeatedly. These young people were the elite disciples of the new cultivation families in the capital. Although they were only 18 or 19 years old, they had already reached qi cultivation. They could walk on water, pick flowers, and hurt people. Their temperament was either elegant or as steady as Mount Tai. They were completely different from ordinary mortals. Isn't the Shuangqing villa the property of the Zhang family? What can happen? Old Zheng was confused. What else can happen? Something big happened. One of them, a young man in a snow-white training suit, pulled Elder Zheng down and explained, Elder Zheng, just now, the cultivators of the Snow God's Palace went to negotiate with Zhang Yilin. I heard that they didn't come to an agreement and even fought. Zhang Huchen, the foundation establishment cultivator of the Zhang family, knelt down after being slapped. The villa is a mess now. It has been destroyed. Zhang Jinghua is Kong Teichu's grandfather. The Zhang family of Yanjin is backed by Sidoni's Tianqing school. In the past few years, they have been doing everything in Huaxia. How dare they fight with the Snow God's Palace? Old Zheng was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. That's old news. Grandpa Zheng, don't you read the news? The young man stomped his feet and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Now that the Tianqing school has suffered heavy losses in the battle against the monsters, there are only a few big and small cats left. They are already on the verge of collapse, but they still took in the demons and became the target of public criticism. They can't even protect themselves, let alone the Zhang family. Those orthodoxies with extraterrestrial backgrounds are the ones with a lot of talents and strong soldiers. I think so. This time, the Zhang family is in trouble. They might be removed from the list. As soon as he said that, everyone nodded. Sigh, back then, Kong Teichu dominated the world alone. He was respected by all the worlds in Tianqing, Heavenly State, and West Earth. How peerless and unparalleled was he? Who would have thought that in just 5 years, there would be new talents in the pugilistic world, and the new generation would replace the old? Old Zheng was stunned for a moment. He had mixed feelings in his heart and sighed. No one noticed that when they hurried down the mountain, an invisible ray of light tore through the air and swept across the sky above their heads. In the Shuangqing villa, under the milky white moonlight, the place was in a mess. The octagonal pavilion had already collapsed. More than a dozen corpses were lying on the ground, and the blood stained the marble floor. Like a stream, The falling red maple leaves were sent into the Shuangqing spring water filled with spiritual aura. The two forces were clearly at loggerheads. Zhang Yilin, do you still want people to die? You've seen how powerful the palace of the snow god is. If you continue to resist, only death will await you. Hand over the shares to us. Yi Yuhui, who was already in the golden core realm and wearing a white Daoist robe, stood behind an old man wearing a black robe embroidered with the words, Palace of the Snow God, and said with a cold voice. On the side of the Palace of the Snow God, there were a total of more than 10 golden core cultivators. They wore the standard robes given by the Palace of the Snow God, and each of them had a solemn aura. Their every movement seemed to be in harmony with the great path of heaven and earth, harmonious and natural, but it also brought about great psychological pressure. Chapter 1712. You want to take the shares? Sure, but you have to kill me. Zhang Yilin was now 27 or 28 years old. Although she was at the foundation establishment stage, she was still wearing a beige business suit, high heels, and silky stockings that wrapped around her slender legs. She was graceful and elegant, with exquisite makeup on her pretty face and a pair of black-rimmed glasses on her nose. She was dressed like a strong woman in the workplace. Facing the heavy pressure, her face was cold and she didn't give in at all. On her side, Han Qingli, the financial director and the daughter of the Han family in Yanjin, and Zhao Qianru, the vice president and Jiang Tian's sister-in-law, were all nervous and angry. Zhang Huchen, who had just swallowed a healing elixir, was sitting on a chair with a pale face and groaning. Next to him, Zhang Jiangfeng was hesitant and his eyes were full of fear. Stubborn! The old man sitting on the stone bench suddenly slammed his hand on the table. The marble table immediately turned to dust. He released his aura and coldly shouted, "Who are you?" He said with a cold voice, "We'll not only give you 10 billion crystal stones, but we'll also take you into the palace to practice cultivation arts. This is your great fortune, the good fortune of your 8 lifetimes. It's just worldly wealth, but you're so addicted to it. You're really stubborn." If someone from Huaxia's cultivation world was there, they would definitely recognize this person. He was the most famous grandmaster in history before the spirit qi recovery, Kai Shaochen. This person was very untalented and had low comprehension. Although he was from a famous 8 extremities fist sect, he had only reached the transcendent grandmaster level at the age of 80. When Jiang Tian became a young grandmaster, the busybodies on the martial arts forum and the dark net always liked to compare him with Jiang Tian, which made him very jealous of Jiang Tian. Whenever Jiang Tian made any movements and his cultivation base was mentioned, there would definitely be a sentence after that. You know, Kai Shaochen reached the transcendent state at the age of 80 and he's called a grandmaster. Originally, it was an incredible achievement for him to reach the transcendent grandmaster level in the age of doom, even at the age of 80. But when compared to Jiang Tian, he seemed so miserable, so pitiful, and so unbearable. Every time she saw this news, Elder Kai would be so angry that her hands would tremble, and her high blood pressure would almost flare up. After the battle between Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren, many of the forces that had betrayed Jiang Tian, such as the Jiang Tianzi Wudao clan and the Southwest's Wu Yingxiong clan, were eradicated. Kai Shaochen, who was shouting the loudest at that time, was so scared that he went crazy. He vomited green bile and fainted on the spot. However, this person's cultivation was simply too low. Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to kill him, so he let him go. He never imagined that after the Big Dipper cultivators descended, he would be lucky and be taken in as a subordinate of the Heavenly Snow Palace. They used medicinal pills to boost his cultivation and actually helped him break through to the nascent soul stage in a short year. He was in the limelight for a while. Of course, the objective of the Big Dipper cultivators was to prove the superiority of their cultivation method and orthodoxy, and to dispel Jiang Tian's influence. See, even such a piece of trash, as long as he cultivated the Big Dipper cultivation method, he would still be able to ascend to the heavens and directly enter the nascent soul stage. Indeed, I'm just an ordinary person. I have no interest in cultivation, and of course, I have no interest in the heavenly snow palace. It's just worldly wealth, and it's just watching my live broadcast. Why do you insist on being poor? Zhang Yilin said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. She didn't know the inside story behind the Big Dipper cultivators of the Beihan sect controlling the monsters to invade Earth. However, from their actions, Zhang Yilin could tell that the Big Dipper cultivators weren't kind people. In addition to supporting the new cultivation forces such as the Desolation Temple and fighting for control of the Myth Alliance and the Guardians of Wuxia, the Big Dipper cultivators were also manipulating public opinion. At the moment, almost all the large media groups in the world had been bought by the Big Dipper puppets such as the Wuya Arena, the Heavenly Snow Palace and the Desolation Temple. These large media groups had been promoting the human cultivators of the Big Dipper cultivators to erase Jiang Tian's historical achievements. Even Zhao Xueqing's attack on the monsters of the ruins of deity on Mars was listed as a taboo topic and no media was allowed to report or spread it. At the moment, Simi Media, by Chou Fei's Tiange Entertainment and Sidoni's official media group were the few media groups that supported Jiang Tian and the Tianqing school. Without these, Jiang Tian would lose the support of public opinion, and they would even distort the truth and turn him from the savior of Earth into a sinner. As for the famous mountains, rivers, and spirit veins, the Big Dipper puppets had also seized them. Countless of them had been purchased and snatched away by him. It could be said that almost all the large energy and resource giants in the world were secretly controlled by the Big Dipper puppets. In fact, the cultivation resources, institutions and public opinion of the entire Earth had all fallen into the hands of the Righteous Alliance. However, the Big Dipper cultivators and the Beihan sect used secret methods and ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect it. Zhang Yilin was sure that if the Righteous Alliance's space battleships arrived on Earth one day, they wouldn't be stopped at all and the people on Earth would welcome them as if they were the saviors of the world. Besides, whether the cultivators of the Big Dipper cultivators were the saviors of the world or the ambitious ones, Zhang Yilin could ignore them and stay out of it. Those who were kind to her were kind and those who were evil. As long as they were harmful to Jiang Tian, Zhang Yilin would treat them as enemies and be on guard. So, no matter how many benefits they gave her and how much pressure they put on her, Zhang Yilin wouldn't give up the right to watch the livestream. Zhang Yilin, you're too outdated. Yi Hui sneered with disdain. Do you still think this is a peaceful time? This is a new era of cultivation. Dragons and snakes dance together and heroes rise together. The strong are respected and the weak are like ants. The bigger the fist, the more reason. She took a step forward and released the terrifying energy of a golden core cultivator. In the mind of everyone, she was like a giant 100 feet tall, making them feel as if Mount Tai was pressing down on them. You're just chi refinement cultivators and foundation establishment cultivators. Compared to us golden core cultivators, you're nothing. You're just ants. Yi Hui raised her eyebrows and shouted. Zhang Jiangfeng, who had no cultivation, knelt on the ground and then lay on the ground like a toad. Even if the others were chi refinement cultivators and foundation establishment cultivators, they were extremely uncomfortable. Their faces became as pale as paper and their bones creaked as if they were about to break. Zhang Huchen spurted out another mouthful of blood. Yilin, just surrender. Grandpa, give the order to sell me to them. We can't take it anymore. Zhang Jiangfeng shouted crazily. He was dispirited and sloppy. His beard was unshaven and his body was fat and greasy. He was no longer handsome and aggressive. The recovery of spirit chi and the arrival of the Big Dipper were the two biggest changes in the past 10,000 years, which brought about a huge change that could destroy everything. Nowadays, those who couldn't cultivate, no matter how rich or talented they were just inferior people who weren't welcomed. Only cultivators were superior to others. When Zhang Jiangfeng found out that he had no foundation for cultivation, it was as if he had fallen from heaven to hell. He fell into complete despair and became a cripple. He spent his days drinking, looking for women, giving up on himself, abandoning himself, and exiling himself. You're stupid. How could we betray the leader? Before Zhang Yilin could reprimand him, Zhang Jinghua rose into the air from the villa and shouted loudly, Don't. Our Zhang clan's achievements today are all due to our relationship with the Alliance Master. Although the Alliance Master doesn't care about our betrayal, we can't forget his kindness in the slightest. We have to know our place at all times. Don't be hesitant and be laughed at by the world. Endless determination flashed across his face. He activated his foundation establishment cultivation to the extreme and shouted, "Children, the other party has made up his mind. Then, let's get ready to fight." On one hand, he was threatened by Yi Yuhui and the others, and on the other hand, he was related by blood. Under great pressure, Zhang Jiangfeng couldn't control himself anymore and couldn't help but cry. But when Zhang Jinghua came out to suppress the situation, Zhang Jiangfeng couldn't say a word of surrender anymore. Kong Teichu has already died in the South Gate Galaxy, and you're still so blindly loyal. How ridiculous! However, since you want to die, I don't mind fulfilling your wish and sending you to heaven. Seeing this, Yi Yuhui was furious. His dantian rumbled like thunder and his golden core trembled. An ice goddess more than 100 feet tall rose behind him. The entire villa suddenly became cold, as if it had fallen from early spring to the coldest day. Snow filled the air and the sky was cold. "Old man, go to hell." Her expression was cold, and her clear eyes flashed with ruthlessness. She clapped her right hand, and the ice mountain goddess moved as well. A snowflake the size of a small mountain fell from the sky, pressing down on Zhang Jinghua like Mount Tai. At that moment, countless people in the villa cried out in shock. Zhao Qianru held Zhang Yilin's hand tightly. Her hand was covered in cold sweat. Zhang Yilin gritted her white teeth and looked at the sky. Many disciples were determined. They pushed their cultivation to the peak state, ready to fight to the death. Bang! At that moment, a dazzling golden light cut through the sky and shattered the essence chi snowflake that Yuhui had shot out. That golden light was so dazzling, so magnificent, so dazzling. It was like a fiery red sun that illuminated the entire Yuhua villa and even fragrant mountain, as if it could illuminate this dark world. Everyone couldn't help but look up. In the afterglow of the golden light that was gradually dissipating, a person stepped on the ground with his hands behind his back and walked over step by step. He had black hair, black eyes, and was wearing a black robe. He seemed to be above all things and a true god that controlled thousands of worlds. Kong Teichu. The moment they saw this person, everyone was stunned. Chapter 1713. It's really Jiang Tian. Zhang Huchen and the others yelled the moment they saw Jiang Tian. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru widened their eyes in disbelief. Many members of the Zhang family trembled with excitement. Our sect master is back. At this moment, the entire Shuangqing villa was in dead silence at first, then there was a burst of cheers. Even Kai Shaoqun and Yi Yuhui were shocked and couldn't believe it. Rumor had it that there were countless soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deity and Jiang Tian might have died there. Why did he suddenly come back? Besides, the cultivators of the Beidou sect had formed a seal with countless ships to lock Earth. Why didn't he come back at all? Sect Master. Zhang Jinghua's hands trembled and he looked over excitedly, but the next second he was startled. Oh no! Sect Master, a lot of overlords from the Snow God Palace came this time. There are at least 3 nascent soul cultivators hiding in the dark and they're all high-grade nascent soul cultivators. Each of the 3 nascent soul cultivators has 100 golden core cultivators with them, forming a snow god army. They're invincible and we can't fight them head-on. They're far more powerful than the famous sects of the Qin dynasty and the Tungus demons. Oh no, my cousin just came back. He might not know the situation. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. Yi Yuhui also laughed sarcastically. Kong Teichu, I didn't expect you to come back. That's good too. Let's go to the Northern Wilderness Temple and wait for orders. The sects of the other planets are supreme and all the cultivators on Earth have to surrender. In Yi Yuhui's mind, the cultivators on Earth couldn't compare with the cultivators of the Beidou sect at all. The latter was as superior as deities and Buddhas. The humans on Earth, including Kong Teichu, were just poor ants crawling on the ground. Ah, Kong Techu, you're so silly. The spirit chi is recovering and the blessings of the past are erupting in this world, but you went far away and missed the best opportunity. Kai Shaochen said smugly, when the cultivation civilization of the Beidou sect arrives, there will be 600 million cultivators in the divine land and everyone will be educated and improved. As for you, you missed the opportunity. When you left, you were a gold core cultivator. I'm afraid you're still a gold core cultivator now. He said coldly, back then, I was known as the oldest grandmaster in history, but what about now? I've already reached the nascent soul stage and am known as a perfected cultivator. You, in my eyes, are nothing but a younger brother. At the same time, another 3 nascent soul perfected lords flew over with 100 golden core cultivators each, surrounding Jiang Tian in the middle. Jiang Tian's consciousness moved slightly and he found that these 3 nascent soul cultivators were very special. Although he was an earthling, deep in his bloodline, he exuded a strong aura of the Big Dipper human clan. Jiang Tian immediately understood that the Big Dipper cultivator had used the blood condensation grand art to change their blood essence. Even their divine sense and spirit had been seized. To put it bluntly, they only possessed the skin of the human race on Earth. Being possessed by the Big Dipper cultivator's avatar was like being possessed. Besides, the level of their nascent souls wasn't low. Most of them were at the 6th or 7th grade. In terms of power, they were comparable to normal soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deity. Once the 3 nascent soul cultivators arrived, the world was immediately filled with coldness, as if they had moved from the capital city to the North Pole. The red maples and green bamboos were quickly covered with a layer of snow and many buildings were like jade palaces. Many cultivators were frozen to death. Even with Dharma artifacts to protect themselves, they wouldn't last 10 minutes. Even the master of the palace is here. Kong Techu, you're dead this time. Yi Hui and the others were full of admiration, as if they had seen a god. Zhang Jinghua, is this Kong Techu, the former alliance master of the Myth Alliance whom you consider as your backer? In my opinion, he's only a golden core cultivator with a very low level. You think he's your savior? You must be dreaming. The one with the highest level of power among the 3 was the palace master of the snow god's palace. He said arrogantly and his voice was extremely ear-piercing. I thought this kid would be powerful since he used to be the most powerful cultivator on Earth. But after seeing him today, he's just SOSO. A cold voice was heard on the left. Cut the crap. Kill him. An old voice on the right made the final decision. Bang. The golden core cultivators of the ice team on the left trembled and the elder leading the team even let out a nascent soul roar as he activated all his power. Immediately, an ice snow spirit was formed. This ice snow spirit was 1,000 feet tall. Its body was covered in ice and it was surrounded by mist. Snow fell like goose feathers. It had 3 heads and 6 arms and its 3 faces were either fierce, kind, or solemn. Its 6 hands were the size of a basketball court. They grabbed, slapped or hammered at Jiang Tian. Before the palms arrived, a terrifying energy had already been released. The entire area of Fragrant Hill was shaking. Even though many villas had the support of formations, they collapsed and cracked open. In an instant, many residents fled for their lives like stray dogs. Seeing this scene, countless people turned pale with fright. However, Jiang Tian's expression was still as calm as water. He slowly walked over with his hands behind his back. Wherever he passed, the mighty cold wind, sharp ice arrows, terrifying ice blocks, and even the cold laws were all split apart with him as the center. Some of the Golden Core Realm cultivators were burned to ashes by the golden flames as soon as they got close to him. Then, he activated the Red Bird Divine Law, and it was like the sun in the sky, burning everything. Be careful, Sect Master. That's the Snow God's soul formation. It was formed with the blood of 100 Golden Core cultivators and activated by the Dharma laws of a nascent soul cultivator. It can freeze divine souls and seal dimensions. It's a real forbidden realm. Don't let it go, Zhang Jinghua said worriedly. But then, something even more shocking happened. The arms of the 10,000-foot-tall snow goddess actually burst into flames the moment they came within 10,000 feet of Jiang Tian. Even the laws were burned to ashes. The fire also spread along the arms to their bodies at an extremely fast speed. The great elder on the left screamed, his voice filled with fear, unease, and disbelief. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as a ruthless and resolute expression flashed across his face. He had severed 6 of his arms in order to save the goddess of snow's clone. Even so, the dozens of golden core cultivators who went up to meet him were still killed. What kind of fire is that? How did it burn the snow god's clone? The Grand Elder was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian was indifferent as he continued to walk unhurriedly. His eyes seemed like they hung high up in the sky, indifferent and distant. It was as if he was looking down upon the vicissitudes of life, the changes in the world, and stood above all things. Kai Shaochen, Yu Hui, and the others were dumbfounded. The snow god's clone was the clone of a soul formation grand cultivator. It was said to be indestructible and could freeze everything. And yet, it couldn't even touch Jiang Tian and was burned like a paper lantern? That was unbelievable. After all, in their eyes, Jiang Tian was already a person behind the times. He might not even be able to defeat a nascent soul cultivator on Earth. How could he be so powerful? He could even crush the clone of the snow god easily. That was too terrifying. Kill him. The sect master of the snow god's palace gave an order with viciousness in his eyes. All these years, the Righteous Alliance had been trying to eliminate Jiang Tian's influence, but how could it be as effective as killing him? Boom. Following the palace master's command, the 3 snow deity legions immediately let out a loud rumble. They all turned into giant deities that could support the heavens and the earth. They let out a loud rumble as they charged at Jiang Tian. Each of the snow gods was 1,000 feet tall and snow was falling in a 10-mile radius. They were moving towards Jiang Tian like a mountain. Before they even got close to Jiang Tian, their terrifying energy had already arrived. Boom. Suddenly, the entire area within a few miles of fragrant mountains sank a few meters. Even the many protective formations and restrictions all over the capital exploded. At this moment, the tens of millions of people in the capital all looked in the direction of the Yuhua mountain villa. They were all terrified. The snow god's palace is attacking the Zhang family from the direction of the Yuhua villa. What should we do? Should we stop them? That's the snow god's palace. The Wei Rong army station there also noticed it immediately. They were uneasy, but they didn't dare to go and stop them. The snow god's palace was too powerful. There were hundreds of golden core cultivators and a few nascent soul cultivators. The regular army felt like ants in front of them. Cousin, be careful. That's a super formation. Don't resist it. At that moment, Zhang Yilin's face turned pale and she shouted to remind her cousin. At this time, Jiang Tian stopped and yawned as if his interest had waned. But when Jiang Tian exhaled, boom! The sun and the moon were upside down and the world was collapsing. At that moment, the world seemed to have been destroyed. Nobody would have thought that Jiang Tian's yawn would be so powerful. It was as if a heavenly lord had opened his eyes and created the world. The entire world was stirred up and the sun and moon were extinguished as Jiang Tian took a breath. Boundless divine light shot out from Jiang Tian's mouth. A mighty gale seemed to blow out from the depths of hell, obliterating one's divine soul and destroying one's body. The 3 snow god legions were like delicate flowers under a millstone, and they were forcefully crushed and crushed. The 3 nascent soul cultivators, including the sect master of the snow god's palace, were thrown 10 miles away like golf balls. Other than the 3 nascent soul cultivators, the other golden core cultivators who attacked were all killed and turned into blood mist. How can he be so powerful? The power of a husky is so terrifying. Although the 3 nascent soul cultivators were able to survive, it wasn't easy for them. Their flesh was torn and blood was dripping. There were even cracks on their spirit embryos that went straight to their nascent souls. They knew they were no match for him, so they turned around and ran without saying anything. As for the others, they were even more shocked. Cousin has actually become so strong. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru felt as if they were in a dream. They couldn't believe it, and their mouths were wide open for a long time. He's still the brightest, most dazzling and strongest man in this universe. Han Qingli murmured and couldn't help but think of the beautiful past when she pretended to be Jiang Tian's girlfriend and barged into the Song family's banquet. This was actually done by my grandson. Zhang Jinghua was also dumbfounded. His mind was stuck, and he was stuttering. Jiang Tian merely yawned, yet hundreds of gold cores were destroyed, and 3 low-grade nascent soul stage cultivators were badly wounded. The power that Jiang Tian showed right then was more than 10 times stronger than when he left Earth. Chapter 1714. On the other hand, Yu Hui's face turned pale and she broke out in cold sweat. She had never thought that Kong Teichu would be so powerful. The cultivators of the Big Dipper sect, whom she worshipped like gods, were like ants in front of Jiang Tian. As for Kai Shaochen, he was so scared that he trembled and bent his back, wishing he could kneel down before Jiang Tian. He didn't have the power of a nascent soul-perfected cultivator anymore. He was just a pitiful old man. I can kill the palace master of Snow God Palace with a snap of my fingers. Besides, you're only controlling one of his clones. You're no match for me. It's boring. Just kill them. Jiang Tianyi shook his head dispiritedly. With a look of disinterest, he flicked his fingers. Bang, bang. 3 rays of Genjin finger radiance shot into the sky like meteors. They tore through the air and pierced through the heavens and the earth. Their speed was unimaginably fast. The 3 nascent soul-perfected cultivators, including the palace master of Snow God Palace, couldn't dodge in time. They didn't even have time to scream before they exploded in the sky like fireworks and turned into powder. Am I dreaming? Zhang Yilin couldn't believe it. The nascent soul cultivators of Snow God Palace were much more powerful than Gu Hu of the Tungus Fiends. They were all 6th grade or 7th grade nascent soul cultivators and had a lifespan of 1,000 years. They were middle-aged, nascent soul heavenly lords and were in their prime. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the power of those 3 nascent soul cultivators was comparable to that of 100 Gu Hu. And yet, they were still killed by Jiang Tian with a snap of his fingers. This meant that Jiang Tian's power had increased 100 times or even a few hundred times in just 5 years. Ha! Brother-in-law is so powerful. Zhao Qianru's face flushed and she cheered. She was about the same age as Zhang Yilin, but she didn't have the habit of being mature. She was still like a wild girl. As for Kai Shaochen and Yu Hui, they were dumbfounded. They were more powerful and had even participated in the battle against the demons. Thus, he understood even more clearly how terrifying the strength that Jiang Tian displayed was. He had killed hundreds of golden core cultivators with a yawn and killed a nascent soul heavenly lord with a flick of his finger. He was definitely as powerful as a peak stage soul formation cultivator. At the very least, he had the strength to fight against God's son Han Ming. Alliance Master is still the Alliance Master. A genius is a genius after all. At this moment, Kai Shaochen raised his head and looked at Jiang Tian, whose robes fluttered in the wind. He revealed a bitter smile and spoke almost hysterically. He originally thought that with the help of the Big Dipper cultivators, reaching the peak of the nascent soul stage was as easy as climbing Mount Tai. He thought that he had far surpassed Jiang Tian and no longer placed Jiang Tian in his eyes. He had finally broken through the shadow that had shrouded him for the rest of his life, and the clouds parted to see the moon. He didn't expect that. He was even further away from Jiang Tian than before. It was like the distance between heaven and earth. It was like a mortal facing an immortal, still unable to catch up. That's right, the Alliance Master is still the Alliance Master. You're the boss, you'll always be the boss. Zhang Huchen rejoiced in his misfortune. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Yi Wei's face changed drastically and he trembled in fear. He couldn't even stand properly and his teeth were chattering fiercely like a machine gun. She had just threatened to kill Zhang Jinghua's family. After all, that was Jiang Tian's grandfather's family. With Jiang Tian's vengeful personality, How could he let her go? After all, it wasn't the first time that she had gone against Jiang Tian. At this moment, she was extremely regretful. The regret in her heart was so strong that it couldn't be washed away even if she poured all the water in the world. Originally, when Yi Karen let her and Ji Muxian go back then, Jiang Tian didn't pursue her crime anymore. She could have concealed her identity and become a free individual cultivator. However, she couldn't resist the temptation of the Beihan sect and stood up against Jiang Tian. She had never thought that Jiang Tian would come back alive and become so powerful when Jiang Tian floated down to the ground. Senior Tai Chu, I know I was wrong. Yi Hui couldn't control the fear in his heart anymore. He knelt down and begged for mercy. Even Kai Shaochen was no longer arrogant, and he knelt in front of Jiang Tian as if his spirit had been sucked out. They also knew that they, a nascent soul cultivator and a dozen golden core cultivators, were not enough to fill the gap between Jiang Tian's teeth, so they didn't resist at all. If you know you were wrong, go to hell. Jiang Tian looked indifferent. He waved his hand and a red sparrow true fire swept over. Everyone was immediately burned to ashes. Even the golden core cultivators, who were known to be indestructible, couldn't survive. Great. Seeing this, the entire Zhang family burst into an earth-shattering cheer. It was the joy of surviving a disaster, and they were excited about Jiang Tian's invincible power. Cousin. Brother-in-law. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru, with tears in their eyes, threw themselves into Jiang Tian's arms, one on the left and one on the right, tightly hugging his waist. Han Qingli also rushed a few steps forward excitedly, but she stopped abruptly. She knew that Jiang Tian had always kept himself clean and was extremely cold. He had always kept a respectful distance from women. They were Jiang Tian's family and they could certainly hug him, but she didn't have any reason to. Alas, he's already the leader of the unparalleled alliance and I'm no longer that capricious girl. Han Qingli thought gloomily. Jiang Tian had a helpless expression on his face. He could only pat their heads and say with a smile, all right. You're not little girls anymore. You're all strong women in the workplace and female cultivators in the building foundation stage. Why are you still crying? Zhang Yilin let go of him embarrassedly. Brother-in-law, I miss you very much. How's my sister? Zhao Qianru still clung to Jiang Tian like an octopus and refused to let go. Her beautiful eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon, like a kitten. Your sister is fine. She's back in Sidoni. Jiang Tian said softly. Zhang Huchen reminded him worriedly, Leader, those cultivators are proficient in Immortal will's secret arts, communication dharma artifacts and soul badges. I'm afraid that their masters will soon know about their deaths. You have to be very careful. Don't worry. I've already cast a spell to block all Immortal will and messages. They won't be able to get the relevant information. Jiang Tian used the art of creation to repair his damaged meridians and sea of qi. He smiled and said, Besides, their masters are only a few soul formation cultivators. What's there to be afraid of? I'll kill as many as they come. Hearing that, everyone looked at each other in shock. They didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so confident. They also knew that this confidence was definitely built on the foundation of strength. Leader, what's the situation in the ruins of deity? Were you? Zhang Jinghua walked over and asked with a bit of respect and uneasiness. In terms of blood, he was Jiang Tian's grandfather. But after all, he had bullied Jiang Tian's family in the early years. He was afraid that Jiang Tian would hold a grudge against him, so he had always been careful with his words and actions. He didn't dare to act like an elder at all. Instead, he was respectful like a subordinate meeting his superior. Besides, Jiang Tian's status was too high and he was too powerful. He was a bit scared in front of Jiang Tian. The earth of the ruins of deity is very powerful. There are 46 life stars. The emperors of the ruins of deity are all soul formation cultivators. The 10 divine emperors coexist in the world. There are also 3 powerful organizations, the 100 Moon Academy, the Sky Palace and the Emperor's Palace. The headmaster, the Sword God and the Heavenly River Lord are all soul formation cultivators. There are also the 6 Grotto Heavens and the 8 Guardian families. There are a total of 176 soul formation cultivators in the world. Every time Jiang Tian said a word, everyone's face turned paler. In the end, they were as pale as paper. Zhang Jinghua was on the verge of collapse. He couldn't even stand steadily. It's just like what the Big Dipper cultivators said. Is it too late to run now? Zhang Jiangfeng was so scared that he trembled and almost peed on the spot. It wasn't just him. In everyone's opinion, Jiang Tian must have been defeated and returned to Earth just to lead everyone to escape. But they didn't expect that Earth would also be occupied by the Big Dipper cultivators. But now I've killed all of them. Now, I'm the Lord of the Ruins of Deity. Jiang Tian grinned and looked at him disdainfully. Zhang Jinghua was stunned and couldn't believe it. Chapter 1715. What? Everyone exclaimed. Everyone was stunned. What did hundreds of soul formation cultivators mean? A golden core cultivator was enough to wipe out everything on Earth before the spirit chi was restored. Even the most powerful army and nuclear weapons of the Black Eagle Federation couldn't do anything to a golden core cultivator. Even after the spirit chi was restored and the Dharma laws on Earth were strengthened, 10 soul formation cultivators working together were enough to destroy all the lives on Earth in a day. The Beidou monsters only had 9 soul formation cultivators, but they were able to suppress the superpowers and occupy Earth in a dozen days. Soul formation cultivators were like gods in the human world. They could form domains, control the great Tao and merge with the world. Not even nascent soul cultivators were comparable to them. That was the difference between mortals and deities. You killed hundreds of soul formation cultivators? Everyone's voice was trembling. That's right. Jiang Tian smiled and said, I killed all the divine emperors, the master of the academy, the sword god and Lord Taibai Jinxing. I even killed all the 8 guardian families. From now on, the ruins of deity is no longer the enemy of Earth, but a friendly neighbor. His tone was calm, as if it wasn't a tough battle but a family affair. Everyone couldn't believe it. At the moment, Jiang Tian had black hair and black eyes. He was wearing a long robe and looked handsome. He didn't look like a peerless divine lord who suppressed the ruins of deity. One had to know that it was a star system, and a star system that was countless times larger than the solar system. How can it be fake? I've eaten countless golden core cultivators, nascent soul cultivators and even soul formation cultivators, let alone our alliance master. The purple true dragon showed up. It wasn't in the shape of a black dog, but was covered in scales. It shook its head and wagged its tail, looking very majestic to support Jiang Tian. It also took out a Dharma artifact and played many scenes of the battle. Everyone was dumbfounded. Such a battle was simply too shocking. The sky was falling and the earth was cracking. The sun and the moon were inverted. Many mountains were razed to the ground in an instant. Many times, more than a dozen soul formation realm warriors attacked Jiang Tian together. Compared to the fierce battle between Jiang Tian and the ruins of deity, the battle to protect Earth was indeed fierce, but there was still a big gap. Good. Zhang Jinghua was so agitated that tears streamed down his face. Then he suddenly laughed out loud. His laughter grew louder and louder, eventually causing the entire Yuhua villa to tremble. As expected of the alliance chief of our Earth's mythology alliance, the #1 person in the cultivation world. With you around, what do we have to fear from Big Dipper's rascals? Zhang Jinghua couldn't help but rejoice. In fact, after Jiang Tian mended his relationship with the Zhang family also faced many challenges. After all, Jiang Tian had too many enemies, and supporting Jiang Tian was extremely risky. However, Zhang Jinghua never wavered. She was very determined. 3 years of bitter waiting, 3 years of stubbornness, 3 years of torment. At this moment, all of this had transformed into heaven-shaking laughter that dripped with delight. Alliance Master, since you have such power, you should properly plan how to teach those rascals a lesson. In fact, Zhang Jinghua didn't know the inside story and didn't know who the real enemy was. However, in the past few years, he had been watching Jiang Tianqing school, and other direct descendants lose their power bit by bit. No matter what, it was clear and undeniable. Since Jiang Tian had returned, he had to take control of the Myth Alliance and not let it fall into the hands of outsiders. Yeah, brother-in-law, what's your next move? Zhang Yilin also asked. I'm going to Langyi Academy in the Hengduan mountain range to get something. Next, I'll suppress the cultivators of Big Dipper. Jiang Tian said calmly. There was nothing for him to plan. As long as he got the Dharma artifact left by Heavenly Scorpion Lord, he would announce it to the public. Those forces that were deceived by the Beihan sect would either retreat or stand on his side. Those who stood in his way were the real henchmen of Big Dipper. He would just kill them. Langyi Academy? Zhang Yilin frowned and said, I just received some news that the Dugu family of Langyi Academy and Big Dipper cultivators are in a heated argument because of some conflicts. It seems that they have already started a war. Maybe it's because of what you want? What? They've already done it? Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and a trace of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. According to Zhang Yilin, there was a quasi-divine Lord Elder of the Beihan sect in Langyi Academy. In fact, almost every secret land that had been exposed was guarded by overlords of the Beihan sect or their henchmen. Some claimed that they were exchanging Dharma arts, some claimed that they were guarding, and some claimed that they were renting. But in fact, the cultivation world respected the powerful. The henchmen of the Beihan sect were powerful and gradually took control of the secret lands. Just a quasi-divine lord? Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold and murderous after hearing that. He sneered and said, How dare you act like a tyrant in the secret lands of the Yin sect? He took out the sky-swallowing demon gourd and 2 divine generals came out. I'm at the Taichu Heavenly Emperor's command. The 2 divine generals were both soul formation cultivators. They half knelt on the ground and cupped their fists, emitting fierce energy. Their energy was earth-shattering and it made people's hearts turn cold. Soul Formation Grand Cultivators. Zhang Yilin's eyes popped out and she exclaimed. That's right. These are Soul Formation Corps generals from the ruins of deity. Their divine souls have been controlled by my soul devourer. They're just puppets. But with them holding down the fort, this place will definitely be safe. Jiang Tian said leisurely. Oh God! Soul Formation Corps generals. Everyone exclaimed and was dumbfounded. Jiang Tian had turned soul formation cultivators from the ruins of deity into corpse generals. If this news were to spread, it would definitely be earth-shattering and heaven-overflowing waves. No one would believe it because it was just too shocking. On Earth, soul formation grand cultivators were already superior beings. How could they become someone's puppets? Before this, even though Jiang Tian had explained it in detail and the purple gold true dragon had taken out the image of the imprint, everyone still had some doubts in their hearts. After all, this battle record was too heaven-defying. It was like a fantasy story. But when they saw the 2 soul formation puppets, they knew that Jiang Tian was telling the truth. Lulu, come here. Jiang Tian called Cheng Lulu over and immediately taught her a set of methods to control the corpse generals. Oh God! Leader, I've never thought that I would be able to control soul formation puppets one day. This is so exciting. Jiang Tian imparted the technique to her through his divine sense, and Cheng Lulu felt as if a set of control techniques had appeared out of nowhere in her mind. It was like a natural instinct, and she was able to control the corpse general puppet as if it was her own arm and finger. It was incomparably smooth, and she couldn't help but be greatly excited. She was so excited that her beautiful face flushed red, and she cheered excitedly. Lulu, take these 2 soul formation cultivators to the capital and protect the Zhang family and the righteous sects against the Righteous Alliance and their henchmen. Any force that dares to oppress the creatures on earth, bully the weak and take things by force will be killed without mercy. Jiang Tian said coldly. Alliance Master, I will do my best to fulfill my mission. Cheng Lulu's mind surged, her blood surged, and she was excited to the point her face flushed red. She cupped her fists and knelt down on one knee, and she spoke with a solemn expression. Zhang Jinghua and the other disciples looked at each other and felt relieved. They felt gratified and smiled. With 2 soul formation cultivators, the Zhang family and the entire capital were safe. Jiang Tian was a broad-minded man after all. He didn't mind the betrayal of the Zhang family. Jiang Tian nodded. Then his eyes glittered and he said, "Yilin, come with me. Go to the Langyi Academy in the Hengduan mountain range with me. Once you get the image left by Divine Lord Scorpio, broadcast it to the world and reveal the truth. From that moment on, I'll declare war on the so-called Righteous Alliance and kick them out of the solar system. Anyone who stands in my way will die." Chapter 1716. Yes. Zhang Yilin also nodded. "I'm leaving. Take care of your defenses and be careful." Jiang Tian took one last look at Zhang Jinghua and the others, revealing a complicated expression. Then he stepped on his sword and soared into the sky, taking the big black dog and Zhang Yilin with him. Under everyone's nostalgic and hopeful gazes, he turned into a shocking rainbow and tore through the sky without looking back, disappearing into the deep night in the blink of an eye. The wind was mighty, and the spiritual energy was like mist turning into rain. At this time, the land of Wuxia was incomparably vast, and the mountains and rivers were magnificent. The sky was filled with all kinds of vitality energy, and the laws were as solid and heavy as steel plates. Flying high in the sky and looking down, one could see mountains and steep ridges, layers upon layers of green, and ancient forests. On the ground, giant spirit veins were entrenched like dragons, full of a barbaric aura. However, in the critical 5 years of the recovery of spiritual energy, Wuxia had indeed exerted the system's advantage of concentrating power to do big things to the extreme, achieving overtaking and leaping in power. The majestic cities were as large as mountains. They were protected by formations and restrictions, and the lights were resplendent. The cultivators were as numerous as ants. At this time, due to the great changes in the terrain, the area of Wuxia was already 10 times or even dozens of times larger than before. From the capital to the Hengduan Mountains, it also expanded. Along the way, the more Jiang Tian saw, the more serious his expression became. Some secret realms had already been revealed, such as Yin Ruins, White Deer Academy, Huangjue Temple, Mount Mang, and so on. They all turned into giant cities with a radius of 100 miles and floated in the air, like immortal palaces and divine palaces, emitting powerful vitality and law fluctuations. But what made Jiang Tian angry was, most of these secret realms had already been occupied by the Big Dipper puppets. They acted tyrannically and used their power to oppress others without any restraint. They killed people as if they were cutting grass. If anyone resisted, they would immediately be turned into ashes. They were like a country within a country, completely ignoring the rules that the Mythology Alliance had set back then. Cultivators fought for mortals. The strong protected the weak. It had long been replaced by the law of the jungle. The strong were respected, and the weak were ants. Strength was everything. At this time, the land seemed to be prosperous and rich in spiritual energy, but in fact, the order inside had collapsed and danger lurked everywhere. It was impossible for a powerful cultivation civilization to form. Each and every one of Wuxia's hidden sects, secret realms, and cultivation holy lands had already been directly or indirectly controlled by the Big Dipper cultivators, transforming them into living purgatories. Most of the time, Jiang Tian was just hurrying along. He didn't care about what he saw. Right now, there were too many imbalances in the world. Only by changing the fundamental concepts and rules could the world be changed. Even with Jiang Tian's ability, he would probably be exhausted to death if he had to deal with them one by one. But sometimes, when encountering something too infuriating, Jiang Tian would just casually slap down and turn those evil people into ashes. Then, the victims would hurriedly kowtow to the golden light in the sky, praying for the blessings of the gods. Boom! Jiang Tian's golden rainbow piercing the sun. Not only was Jiang Tian by himself, but he was also carrying Zhang Yilin and the big black dog. The key was that the laws of Earth had been strengthened at this time, and his speed was less than 1/10 of the speed in the ruins of immortality. In order to maintain the fastest speed, Jiang Tian's nascent soul roared. The blood on his body boiled, turning into clouds of laws. Rich energy seeped out of his body, fusing with his escape technique, leaving a 1-mile-long golden light in the air. The golden light was more than a mile long, and the tail flames stretched for 7 or 8 miles, as if it could split the world. Any cultivator who was hurrying along hurriedly avoided it. All of them were shocked. Which divine lord was rushing down to the mortal world with such terrifying power and speed? But Jiang Tian didn't care about that. In order to rush to Langyi Academy, he almost pushed his speed to the limit. The puppets of the freezing North sect began to search for Dharma artifacts in all the hidden sects' secret realms that had been occupied by the monster clan. There were probably cultivators of Wuxia dying for this at all times. Jiang Tian had to find the Dharma artifacts and announce it directly. He had to end the cruel rule of the Big Dipper cultivators. Faster! Jiang Tian shouted. In the end, Jiang Tian used the speed of the Kunpeng and turned into a Kunpeng that stretched 3,000 miles. It tore the dimension and split the sky open, rushing forward at a terrifying speed. At such a speed, an hour later, the silhouette of an enormous mountain range covered in ice and snow and shrouded in clouds was finally revealed. It was 1,000,000 meters tall and stretched endlessly like a jade dragon in the clouds. They had arrived at the Hengduan mountain range. If anyone knew how long it took Jiang Tian to get there, they would be terrified. The Dharma laws on Earth had been strengthened, and the space-breaking Dharma laws of nascent soul and soul formation were almost impossible to use. Even the Divine Lord of the Beidu sect would need at least a day to travel from the north to the south of Wuxia. After arriving at the Hengduan mountain range, Jiang Tian communicated with Zhang Yilin with his immortal will. After she used the most advanced positioning system, the golden light turned and flew to the southwest. That was where Langyi Academy was located. A layer of light formed a small world with a radius of dozens of miles. Langyi Academy was originally built beautifully with the remnants of ancient formations. It was rich in spiritual energy and flourished in cultivation. It was truly a paradise. But at the moment, it had become a living hell. The thousands of disciples of Langyi Academy were all imprisoned and tortured. The cold wind was biting and ice crystals were flying. The cultivators of the academy were all skinny and dressed in ragged clothes. They were chained by ice chains and their bodies were frozen. Men and women, old and young, they were all carrying hundreds of kilograms of ice crystals and staggered toward a crystal carrier under the command of the supervisor. The original palace of the academy had been destroyed in the battle and dozens of fortresses were built. Each of them was heavily guarded by golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators. There was even a divine prince half a step away from the soul formation stage. Those people were the reason why Langyi Academy was destroyed and suppressed and didn't dare to resist. Someone was slow. The ferocious-looking overseer, who was standing to the side, waved the lightning whip in his hand and lashed it heavily at the woman's body. Blood splashed everywhere. Half of the woman's body was mangled and her bones were broken. She flew into the air and fell to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Cultivators on Earth are just ants. How dare you play tricks? Do you want to die? The supervisor was still angry. He waved the whip again. Sister. 10 meters away, a skinny young man with a pale face and frostbite all over his body threw away the ice crystals in his hand and jumped forward, trying to take the beating for his sister. Aren't you afraid of pain? I'll cut you. Let's see if you can feel pain. A vicious smile appeared on the supervisor's face. He formed a knife with his chi and slashed. He was a nascent soul cultivator and was much more powerful than the young man. Besides, the young man was shackled and couldn't resist at all. He was immediately split in half and blood stained the ground. Chao Yi, you're also a human on Earth, a descendant of the Yan Huang country. Why are you helping the Beidu cultivators and killing your own people? Are you still human? On a stone pillar that had many runes carved on it and was constantly being burned by lightning and fire, a skinny and unkempt youth gnashed his teeth and roared angrily. Under his slender eyebrows, his eyes had been gouged out, leaving only 2 bloody holes. At this moment, tears of blood rolled out from his eyes. His body, including his shoulder blades, had several bloody holes pierced through by the chains of law. They were fixed to the stone pillars, and as he struggled, rotten and stinking blood came out from these bloody holes. "Duga Xiao, don't try to get close to me. I'm different from you. You're just ants and I've been accepted as a disciple of the Arctic sect. I'm just a peripheral member of the Arctic sect. In the future, I might even be able to follow the freezing North sect to the heavens and go to the beautiful and prosperous Kaiyang galaxy." Chao Yi said with disdain, "Hurry up and give me the Dharma artifact. Otherwise, I'll beat you again." He brandished his long lightning whip and lashed it with crackling sounds. The few disciples of the academy around him were all whipped to the point where their flesh was split open and they were sent flying in all directions. All the disciples of the academy looked at Chao Yi with eyes that almost split apart, and they almost went mad with hatred. They clenched their fists to the point cracking sounds resounded, and they stared fixedly at the fiendish Chao Yi. In other words, they were staring at the Beihan sect, the Kaiyang planet region, and the Beidou cultivators behind them with hatred. "Why do you bully us like this? We're just hermits who want to stay away from the world and live in peace. Why is it that while you claim to be the alliance of justice and order and the saviors of Earth, behind the scenes, you resort to trickery and murder? Why do you keep bullying us when we've never fought back?" Anger surged in the hearts of the disciples of Langi Academy. It was almost boiling and almost turned into flames. 3 months ago, the Divine Prince who was half a step away from the soul formation level suddenly killed Master Qing Mu and captured everyone. Since then, the disciples of the college had been rioting almost every day. But that only led to crazier suppression and killing. There were golden core perfected cultivators, dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords and a quasi-divine lord. The most powerful one among them was only a golden core cultivator, Dugu Xiao. How could he be a match for them? They could only be bullied and stepped on like ants. But they were unwilling. They wanted the outside world to know the cruel truth of the Beidou cultivators. They didn't want to be slaves. They would rather die in battle than be slaves. "Look at the look in your eyes. You don't seem to be convinced. But I like to see you guys looking at me with displeasure, yet unable to do anything about it." Chao Yi Jiao smiled arrogantly. Suddenly, he stomped on the woman and turned her into a pile of minced meat. "Bastard! You're not worthy of being a human." At this moment, many cultivators of the Langi Academy couldn't stand it anymore. One by one, the cultivators raised the boulders in their hands and threw them at Chao Yi. They activated their remaining true essence and charged at Chao Yi, disregarding their own safety and disregarding life and death. Right. I like to see you resist. Otherwise, my killing won't be fun at all. My days as a supervisor are too boring. How can I live without some fun? Ha! Chao Yi let out a wild laugh as he lashed out with his whip, turning several Langya disciples into ashes. "Chao Yi, you've been so unscrupulous. You've defected to the enemy, committed treason, and killed people like flies. One day, the Alliance Master of the Earthsmiths Alliance will come back and punish you. I'll kill you and the Outer Realm cultivators behind you. Leave no one alive." Dugu Xiao raised his head and roared, tears of blood flowing out from his eyes that looked like rotten flesh. The innocent smile from more than 10 years ago was no longer there. It was cold and resolute, and there was only deep hatred, unwillingness, and anger. "Ha! Are you talking about Kong Teichu? He died an unjust death. I don't know if he died in the universe or was killed by the mighty figures of the ruins of immortality. If he comes back alive, I can squash him to death with one hand." The supervisor was laughing maniacally. Suddenly, boom! Heaven and earth trembled violently. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed as if a great earthquake had erupted. What's going on? Could it be that a meteorite came and destroyed the small world? All the cultivators looked up in horror. Jiang Tian had arrived. Chapter 1717. Oh no! Someone's attacking the secret realm. A nascent soul commander said solemnly. "HM, who dares to attack the Langya secret realm? Aren't they afraid that the Beihan sect will kill them? Besides, Even if he's a soul formation cultivator, he might not be able to break it easily. Many nascent soul heavenly lords flew out of the fortresses and looked up at the sky with astonishment. As for Chao Yi, he revealed a proud smile. He felt that the person outside was like an ant trying to shake a tree, like an egg striking a stone. The array of the secret realm had been strengthened by the Beihan sect and was 100 times stronger than the Dharma array of the ancient mountain. However, to everyone's surprise, the strength of the person who was attacking them was too shocking and terrifying. Another loud rumble was heard. A deep dent appeared in the clear and slightly bright barrier. Shocking cracks appeared on it. With the point of impact as the center, the cracks extended for dozens of miles and covered half of the sky. The cracks had yet to recover and dissipate. It was as if a peerless heavenly blade had slashed down. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Amidst the explosion of golden light, a huge crack that was more than a mile wide and 10 miles long was directly split open in the tight boundary. Then, a golden rainbow that pierced through the heavens and earth rushed into this world. What? Everyone exclaimed. They couldn't believe it. This barrier, which was strong enough to stop soul formation grand cultivators, was broken in no time. Who is it? Everyone raised their heads to look over, and their pupils constricted abruptly while their expressions became heavy as if they were facing a great enemy. Chao Yi was even terrified to the point his countenance was pale as a sheet, and he couldn't even stand steadily. A black-haired, black-eyed man in black clothes stood within the golden ray of light. His appearance was handsome like a god, his skin was crystalline like jade, and it emanated a dazzling and gentle glow of treasures and divine radiance, causing him to seem extremely miraculous. Next to the man stood a beautiful woman dressed like an office worker from the secular world. Around her was a 100-meter-long purple-gold true dragon with dense scales. It was majestic, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Sect Master Tai Chu. Sect Master Tai Chu is back. He's here to save us. Sect Master Tai Chu, you have to avenge the disciples of the Langya Academy. Some disciples of the Langya Academy who recognized Jiang Tian yelled with joy. Then, all the disciples in the secret realm of the academy cried and knelt on the ground, kowtowing to Jiang Tian. Even more people were roaring madly. They had endured for too long. Finally, it was time for Jiang Tian to make a domineering return. Brother Chu, no, Sect Master, have you reached the soul formation level? That's great. Dugu Xiao couldn't see Jiang Tian and his immortal will was also disabled. He listened to Jiang Tian's voice and smiled. He was not sure whether Jiang Tian had reached the soul formation stage or not, but since he was able to break through the Beihan sect's barrier, he had to be able to do it. Soul formation? What kind of trash is that? I'll kill them all. Jiang Tianzong laughed and flew to Dugu Xiao's side as if there was no one around. Kong Teichu, you're no longer the sect master of the Myth Alliance. This place belongs to the Beihan sect and it's a rented area. The Beihan sect has the highest authority and no one is allowed to enter without the permission of the Beidu sect. A nascent soul heavenly lord shouted. Kong Teichu, you should have been sentenced to death for breaking the barrier. Since it's your first time back on Earth, we'll let you off the hook since you didn't know anything. Leave now. Another nascent soul heavenly lord tried to persuade him. If you don't leave and continue to disturb us, we'll have to kill you. Another nascent soul heavenly lord threatened. They didn't know Jiang Tian's level. Normally, one had to be at the soul formation level to break the barrier. If Jiang Tian was really at the soul formation level, they would be afraid. They were just a bunch of nascent soul cultivators and golden core cultivators. Even the divine prince who was half a step away from the soul formation level wouldn't be able to defeat Jiang Tian. But when Jiang Tian left Earth, he was only at the core formation level. How could he have broken through the nascent soul level and the soul formation level in 4 years? That was unbelievable. So, they believed that Jiang Tian had used some kind of secret treasure to break the barrier. Jiang Tian didn't care about their provocation. He waved his hand and cut off the chains that bound him. Dugu Xiao fell down. He only felt a warm sensation under his ribs. He was held up by a big hand. Jiang Tian's deep and warm voice sounded in his ears. Xiao, open your mouth. Du Gushao swallowed a budian pill made by Jiang Tian. Then, Jiang Tian used the spirit creation art to heal Du Gushao's damaged dantian and eyes. It was difficult to heal a damaged dantian, but with the help of the budian pill and the spirit creation art, it was only a matter of time. His eyes were just ordinary organs and did not have any magical powers. After a few flicks of his fingers, they were regenerated. However, the scene before his eyes gradually became clear. When he saw Jiang Tian's face, Du Gushao's tears rolled down his cheeks. He said agitatedly, "Alliance Chief, you haven't changed at all compared to the year when you fought against the East Sea Cherry Blossom Festival. It's been 8 years. Xiao, you've become more handsome and mature." Jiang Tian sighed when he saw an old friend, but it wasn't the time to chat. He immediately said, "Xiao, have a good rest. Watch me kill all these bastards." Hearing that, the murderous intent in Jiang Tian's eyes shook the air. All the puppet cultivators of the Beihan sect were startled. At this moment, Jiang Tian was furious. Du Gushao was Jiang Tian's friend, but he had been humiliated like this. His dantian was destroyed, his cultivation was destroyed, his eyes were gouged out, and he had to endure months of inhumane torture. Half of the 3,000 disciples of the Langyi Academy had died. Along the way, Jiang Tian saw that under the suppression of the Big Dipper's lackeys, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of mystic realm cultivators had died. Even if he killed all the henchmen of the Beihan sect, he wouldn't be able to wash away the blood debt. He also had to settle the score with the Beihan sect and all the cultivators from other planets. He cast a protective spell and put Zhang Yilin and Du Gushao inside. Boom! Jiang Tian stomped on the ground and soared into the air, attacking directly. Jiang Tian attacked in anger. How terrifying was his strength! Along with Jiang Tian's palm slapping down, an enormous golden palm with a radius of 500 kilometers slammed down with a bang. That enormous palm seemed as if it was cast from gold, and the lines on the palm and fingerprints were clearly visible. It was extremely condensed and real, and the surroundings were filled with chaotic energy while the laws surged, and multicolored light and auspicious colors suffused the air. Before the giant hand arrived, the violent pressure came first. Down below, mountains that were thousands of meters high collapsed one after another as if they were made of paper. Towering trees that were hundreds of meters high were blown away like withered grass. None of the cultivators escaped. Even the top nascent soul cultivators fell like rain under the violent pressure. They lay on the ground like toads and couldn't get up even if they wanted to. Bang bang bang. One by one, the nascent soul cultivators and golden core cultivators exploded. Blood mist filled the air and the sky and earth were dyed red. Only when they were all dead did this giant palm strike down, shockingly blasting open an enormous crater in the ground, just like a whipped corpse. At that moment, the entire secret realm trembled as if an earthquake had just occurred. At this moment, all the remaining puppets of the Beihan sect kept quiet out of fear. Too terrifying. Killing a nascent soul stage cultivator is as easy as chopping grass. 9 nascent soul heavenly lords and nearly 100 golden core realm cultivators. He really is a divine sovereign. The sound of people sucking in cold air rose and fell. Everyone was retreating like dogs that had lost their homes as they fled in panic, and they were terrified to the point their souls almost left their bodies. They were indeed unable to see through Jiang Tian's cultivation, but that was no longer important. The fact that Jiang Tian had killed a few nascent soul heavenly lords and almost 100 golden core cultivators proved that he was as powerful as a soul formation cultivator and qualified to be called a divine lord. Trying to escape? Do you think you're faster than me? Jiang Tian's laughter was filled with disdain. The Kuan Peng quickly broke through the space. Sometimes it was like a fleeting shadow, sometimes it was like a bolt of lightning. Although it was launched later, it arrived first and continuously slapped down. Bang bang bang. There seemed to be many giant fireworks in the sky, which were extremely beautiful and breathtaking. Dozens of golden core cultivators and a few nascent soul cultivators died every time Jiang Tian slapped down. Their golden cores and nascent souls would uncontrollably explode and let out colorful lights. If one didn't consider the terrifying power of the explosions, the beautiful scene would be far more beautiful than any fireworks show. Kong Techu, this secret land has been rented by the Beihan sect and has been authorized by the Earth's mythical alliance. You killed so many people in the Beihan sect's territory. The Beihan sect won't let you go. Some puppets of the Beihan sect were more courageous. They threatened while running away. Sect Master Taichu, I surrender. Spare my life, I am willing to follow you and serve you faithfully. I am willing to be at your beck and call, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will not hesitate. I'll be loyal to you for the rest of my life. Chao Yi was so frightened that he peed his pants. He ran away crazily and begged for mercy. Tears and snot rolled down his face. He was so scared that he almost lost his mind. He had never thought that Kong Techu would come back alive. After all, according to the cultivators of the Beidu sect, Jiang Tian had died in the ruins of deity. Besides, he had never thought that Jiang Tian would become so powerful. Haha, didn't you say that you're going to kill me with one slap? Now I'm here. Do it. Jiang Tian smiled coldly. His body swayed, and he transformed into the gung metal immortal body. He was more than 1,000 feet tall, and he stood tall in the sky. He waved his hand and grabbed Chao Yi in his hand. Sect Master Taichu, please spare my life. At this moment, Chao Yi was like a fly in the hand of a human in the enormous palm, and he seemed extremely tiny and weak. No matter how he struggled, he was unable to break free in the slightest. He wailed and begged for mercy in despair, and he seemed extremely pitiful. Jiang Tian squeezed gently and Chao Yi exploded like a rotten tomato. Before he died, his face was still full of shock and unwillingness. He couldn't believe that he would die just like that after becoming a nascent soul cultivator for less than a year and acting like a tyrant. Kill! The purple true dragon roared and rushed out. It opened its mouth and swallowed crazily. The purple true dragon was already a nascent soul cultivator and had the bloodline of a pure divine beast. It was so powerful that it could completely suppress normal soul formation cultivators. However, it had always been cowardly and never dared to take risks. It liked to bully golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators. It was a surefire way to defeat them. Kill, kill, kill. Many cultivators of the Langya sect also picked up giant stones, shovels, steel ropes and iron chains and pounced on those ferocious lackeys of the Beidu sect. Those supervisors and jailers had committed a lot of crimes and it was time to settle the score. The disciples of the Langya Academy might not be as powerful, but they had more people and Jiang Tian and the Purple True Dragon were leading and supporting them. The situation immediately took a turn for the worse. Be careful, Sect Master Taichu. There's a divine prince of the Beihan sect here. He's a half-soul formation cultivator and he hasn't left yet. Suddenly, Dugu Shao reminded him. Chapter 17-18. Don't worry. I won't let him get away with it. Jiang Tian stared at the most central, most magnificent, and tallest palace-like fortress in the academy. Layer after layer of talisman formations were inscribed on the walls and pillars of this fort, and the fluctuations of dermic energy were extremely strong. Moreover, the decorations were comparatively luxurious, and it wasn't as simple and natural as the other forts. Obviously, a great figure resided within it. He was sure that it was the divine prince who was half a step away from the soul formation level. Jiang Tian took a step in the air and flew towards the fortress at a seemingly slow speed. The remaining nascent soul and golden cores were not enough for the purple golden true dragon, so Jiang Tian didn't want to kill anymore. I'm the divine prince of the Beihan sect, Qianlong Kong Techu, you're very talented. My Zongzi, Han Ming, cherishes talents the most. If you're willing to surrender, I'm willing to introduce you. I promise I won't punish you for what you did today. The divine prince in the fortress sensed Jiang Tian's energy and immediately sent out a message with his immortal will. Hee, I'm here to kill. Not to be a dog of the Beihan sect. Jiang Tian refused with a smile and approached him at a steady pace. Are you worried that I'll go back on my words and Han Ming will punish you? Chen Long said with a hint of disdain. The cultivators you killed on Earth are just puppets that we've cultivated. They're not worth mentioning. It's okay to kill them. Han Ming doesn't care about their lives at all. Han Ming Zongzi is nothing. In my eyes, you're worse than a dog. Jiang Tian said with disdain. Cut the crap. I'll kill you today to avenge Master Qing Mu and the cultivators of Langya. Kong Teichu, how dare you disrespect Han Ming? Divine Prince Chen Long roared with murderous intent. In his mind, Han Ming was a divine soul formation stage cultivator with unparalleled talents and wisdom. He was truly like a saint. He had seen Han Ming conquer many planet regions and star oceans. Killing normal divine soul formation stage cultivators was as easy as chopping vegetables. He was always invincible. Whether it was the sect masters of the divine sects or the masters of the star field, they all treated him with respect and did not dare to offend him. Even in the entire Mizar star system, or even the Big Dipper star system, Han Ming Zongzi had a pivotal position. This kid, a mere cultivator from a remote planet, actually dared to be disrespectful to Han Ming. He deserved to be hacked into pieces. So what if he was the #1 person on Earth? In the vast Big Dipper constellation, he had seen many such geniuses and had even killed many of them. Kong Teichu, who do you think you are? Do you think you can kill me? Chen Long shouted and released his aura. Rumble. The world shook and the energy of a quasi-divine lord was launched towards Jiang Tian. In a blink, the essence qi in the world boiled like an ocean and the true essence was like waves hitting the shore. All kinds of Dharma laws were extremely condensed and vast. Suddenly, the disciples of Langyi Academy who were chasing after him stopped in their tracks, and they were sent flying backwards like wood shavings. Many of them knelt on the ground and their bones cracked, as if they were about to be crushed into meat paste in the next second. Is this the power of a half-step soul formation cultivator? No wonder Master Qing Mu was killed by him with one slap. Countless people were shocked. Divine Prince Chen Long rarely showed up. They had never met him, let alone fought with him. They had never thought that a quasi-divine lord could be so terrifying. Many disciples of the Langyi Academy who had been confident in Jiang Tian suddenly felt uneasy and worried about Jiang Tian. Will Senior Taichu be a match for him? At that moment, everyone stopped what they were doing. Chen Long's subordinates also looked at the two in the sky. Because they knew that the two in the sky were the ones who would decide their fate. If either side won, how could the followers of the other side escape death? They could just kill them. Kong Teichu, you deserve to die. Boom. Chen Long stood on an ice chariot and rushed out of the palace. He was wearing a heavy armor made of dark iron and was surrounded by the ice Dharma laws. It was so cold that it froze the air. The ice chariot was like an ice sculpture. It was covered with all kinds of patterns and was pulled by 4 nascent soul giant ice bears. Chen Long's every word shook the void and froze the space. Even the mountain peak cracked. All kinds of green plants were instantly covered in ice crystals and lost their vitality. They were like ice sculptures. Countless disciples of the Langyi Academy were stunned. If the purple true dragon didn't protect them, all of them would have died. That's terrifying. The cultivators of the Big Dipper sect are indeed powerful. Will Senior Taichu be a match for them? Many people were hesitant. Dugu Xiao was worried about Jiang Tian and even Zhang Yilin couldn't stay calm. After all, the people Jiang Tian killed before were the puppets of the Beihan sect and cultivators from Earth, but Chen Long was a real cultivator of the Beihan sect. Chen Long, not only do you deserve to die, but the Beihan sect behind you also deserves to die. Jiang Tian's killing intent was gradually released. It rose into the sky like a smoke signal, and it shook the bowl. His voice was so cold that it sounded like a cold gust of wind that came from the depths of hell. I'll kill all the invaders of the Beihan sect and wash the planet with blood. One day, I'll even go to the Beihan sect in the Beidou planet region and the Kaiyang planet region. I'll destroy the Beihan sect and uproot it. In fact, everyone who is related to this invasion will be killed. How dare you? Chen Long was enraged. He had never thought that a cultivator from Earth would say something like that. The Beihan sect was extremely powerful. They had many soul formation cultivators and nascent soul cultivators, and they were all at the soul formation level and nascent soul level. They were the top of the top 10 divine sects in the Kaiyang galaxy and were even more powerful in the entire Beidou region. And yet, Jiang Tian said that he would destroy the Beihan sect. How arrogant and domineering he was. Very well, very well. The Beihan sect used to be gentle and didn't want to kill humans on Earth. But today, Earth will pay the price for what you said. After I kill you, your heavenly clear sect, your old friends, I'll slaughter them all. After Qianlong finished speaking, his right hand reached into the void. Suddenly, a long spear that looked like a beautiful jade crystal appeared in his palm. The long spear was surrounded by cold air and laws of the shape of snowflakes and ice crystals. Once it appeared, the temperature in the grotto heaven dropped to absolute zero. Everyone felt that it was difficult to circulate their energy and their immortal will suddenly stopped. Boom! He held the long spear in his hand and stepped on the ice chariot, creating a white turbulence. The long spear pierced through the dimension and froze everything. It seemed to be able to kill all living things. That's Divine Prince Qianlong's Ice Heart Divine Spear. I heard that Divine Prince Qianlong used this spear to kill 3 demonic beasts of the soul formation level. Jiang Taichu is dead for sure. Right? I heard that this spear is a peak stage Dao artifact. It's even a sacred weapon. It's extremely powerful. Isn't Divine Prince Qianlong bullying others with this spear? He can kill soul formation cultivators like killing chickens. Kang Taichu is too weak. How can he resist? Many puppet cultivators of the Beihan sect were thrilled to see this. The war chariot was extremely fast. Qianlong revealed a ferocious expression. His eyes were extremely cold and vicious. The Ice Heart Divine Spear pierced out with an unstoppable force. It could freeze space in advance and form a natural domain, making it difficult for the opponent to even move. You're just a frog at the bottom of a well. You don't know how vast the universe is. So what if you came back safely from the ruins of deities? The ruins of deities? Since when did the cultivators of the Beihan sect care about the ruins of deities? Seeing that the spear was about to hit Jiang Tian's spirit embryo, Qianlong thought with disdain, but he didn't show any mercy. You're just an ant. But right at this moment, Jiang Tian's right hand suddenly stretched out and grabbed the Ice Heart spear, and his movements were casual as if he was taking something out of his pocket. What? The Ice Heart realm can see through essence chi, dharma laws, dimension and divine soul. Why is it useless against him? Qianlong's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Go to hell. Jiang Tianxin's hand snapped as if he was breaking a hemp pole. He directly broke the divine spear into 2 halves. In front of Qianlong's frightened eyes, he unleashed a punch that caused Qianlong to spit out blood. His chest caved in as he flew away. How is that possible? That's a quasi-sacred weapon. Do you think it's a sugarcane? Godchild Qianlong was sent flying like a rag doll with a single punch. No, he's more like a chicken or a dog. He can't even withstand a single blow. Many cultivators of the Beihan sect screamed as if their mothers had died. What they had seen was too shocking. It was completely out of their expectations. But Qianlong didn't die. After spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, he turned around and tried to escape. No wonder he's so resilient. He's a 9th grade peak stage nascent soul cultivator. He's as powerful as the soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deities. Jiang Tian scanned with his immortal will and was enlightened. Resilient? But I'd like to see how long you can last. Jiang Tian grinned. Swish. Jiang Tian didn't give him a chance. He used the Kunpeng to catch up with him. Jiang Tian punched countless times and many of Divine Prince Qianlong's bones were broken. In the end, Jiang Tian stomped on the ground. He and his chariot were stomped into the depths of the small world, creating a giant pit a few kilometers wide. His nascent soul and his body were smashed into meat paste. At that moment, the entire small world was in silence. All the cultivators of the Beihan sect looked pale and couldn't believe what they had seen. The entire small world was boiling. The cultivators of the Xianxia sect who had been oppressed for 3 months started to fight back. At this moment, along with this half-step divine lord being crushed by Jiang Tian, the situation of the battle had completely reversed, becoming a foregone conclusion. There was no need for Jiang Tian to do anything. Everyone was fighting bravely. There were even puppet cultivators that were torn to pieces and eaten alive. It was too tragic. The disciples of the Xianxia sect had been bullied too badly. Thousands of people had died in 3 months. Parents had lost their children and women had lost their husbands. Many orphans and widows were crying helplessly. Those cultivators of the Xianxia sect had been tortured to death. It was extremely miserable and inhumane. The entire Xianxia sect had turned into a terrifying sea of blood. As for Jiang Tian, he scanned the area with his divine sense. Finally, in an extremely hidden cave, he found the imprint left behind by Divine Lord Scorpio. Jiang Tian raised his hand and grabbed it. After confirming that there was no mistake, his expression turned serious as he said in a deep voice, "Yilin, immediately release this video to the entire world." Chapter 1719. Then, the puppets of the Beihan sect fell one by one. Some of the golden core cultivators of the Beihan sect had also died in the chaos. Gradually, the sounds of fighting became softer and softer. The entire Xianxia secret territory finally calmed down. The battle had finally ended. We actually won? The disciples of the Xianxia Academy looked at the destroyed secret land and couldn't come back to their senses. They couldn't believe it. Even though they had fought back, the more they fought, the more they felt that the Beihan sect was invincible. Even a nascent soul cultivator was extremely powerful, not to mention a half-step soul formation cultivator. They thought that they would be slaves forever until they died of old age. Now, even Shenlong, who was half a step away from the divine transformation realm, had been killed. They had regained their freedom. It's all thanks to the Taichu sect leader. Thank you, Taichu sect leader. Many people were so excited that their eyes were brimming with tears. Many of them even knelt down. Firstly, it was to thank Jiang Tian for saving their lives. Secondly, it was because of Jiang Tian's peerless power. Dugu Shao, the sect leader of the Xianxia Academy, greets the sect leader of the Myth Alliance. Welcome back, Taichu sect leader. Dugu Shao also knelt down on one knee and cupped his fists. His face was full of respect. He had a special relationship with Jiang Tian. When they were fighting in Japan, they called each other brothers. Even if he called Jiang Tian brother, now, Jiang Tian wouldn't blame him. He would only feel happy. But now, he bowed to him respectfully. Because Jiang Tian had saved the entire Xianxia Academy, so he had to show his respect and express his gratitude. This was not the time to be trifled with. Shao, get up. From now on, you are free and you will never be slaves. Jiang Tian looked around at the crowd. Then he helped them up and gave them pellets. He even helped them nurse their divine bodies and heal their wounds. How can we repay the Taichu sect leader's kindness? We can only repay the Taichu sect leader's kindness by sacrificing our lives. Many of the Xianxia Academy cultivators were moved to tears. Some of the elders even shouted loudly. This was because when Jiang Tian fought for the sake of Wuxia, the Xianxia Academy only watched from the sidelines and never helped him, even though Dugu Shao had suggested that they should help. However, at that time, the person in charge was still Daoist Master Qin Mu. He had followed the teachings of his sect, which forbade the Arcana land from entering the mortal world and the Yin sect from interfering with the secular world. Therefore, Dugu Zhao's suggestion was rejected. In short, due to various reasons, Xianxia Academy had indeed not helped Jiang Tian at all, and the only thing they had done for him was the chance encounter between Jiang Tian and Dugu Shao. However, Jiang Tian took out precious medicinal pills to heal them. He even ignored his noble status and personally nursed them back to health. How could they not be moved? Brother-in-law, I've already broadcasted the images in the image to the entire world through my live stream. What should we do next? Zhang Yilin asked. Give them 3 days to think about it. Once the 3 days are up, if they still don't declare war on the Big Dipper cultivators, they can all be killed. Jiang Tian's face was indifferent as he said coldly. My livestream platform was already the most popular livestream platform after the recovery of Spirit Qi. In fact, a few years ago, a large number of venture capital and funds had entered the video livestream industry to expand and seize the market. However, they still didn't reach the level of my livestream. Especially after the recovery of Spirit Qi, my livestream signed a large number of cultivators and opened up a large number of cultivation-related channels, which made my livestream even more popular. In the end, it defeated all the other competitors or acquired them. Today, my livestream platform had the largest market share in the world. Whether it was viewers, fans, or streamers, hundreds of millions of users browsed on it every day. Before the recovery of Spirit Qi, Zhang Shisan was a frequent visitor on the Darknet Forum and the Warrior Forum, and a popular person on Weibo. After the recovery of Spirit Qi, when it entered the era of live streaming, Zhang Shisan also reached the foundation establishment stage. He took the opportunity to transform and became a live streaming internet celebrity. He was originally a demon hunting streamer. Every day, he would fly outside the city and casually kill a wild boar in the Qi refinement stage. He deliberately made the battle process dangerous and added some lively and cute post-production special effects to receive a lot of crystal rewards. He bought a spiritual treasure-level flying sword and lived in a high-end community equipped with a spirit-gathering array. He lived a happy life. The channels of my livestream platform were very rich. For example, outdoor live streaming, flying sword racing, talking about the world, talents and beauties, national cultivation, crystal guessing, and so on. Whether you like to kill demon beasts, refine weapons, or refine pills, or even sing and dance, you could find a stage to display your talents. Let's see what's fun today. Today, Zhang Shisan didn't go out to hunt monsters. He was originally a more peaceful streamer. Zhang Shisan was a fanatical fan of Jiang Tian back then. However, since the arrival of the Big Dipper Alliance, his broadsword was no longer hungry and thirsty. He keenly felt that the extraterrestrial cultivators such as the Beihan sect had been secretly dispelling Jiang Tian's influence and weakening Jiang Tian's authority. Therefore, he became a real idler. He quit the Myth Alliance, stopped killing monsters, stopped fighting, and didn't join any cultivation organizations of the Big Dipper Alliance or the human race on Earth. Sometimes, he would kill a few beasts for fun. Although he was very peaceful, it had become a habit for him to log in and watch my live stream every day. He immediately lay down on the tiger skin sofa and lazily opened the app on his phone. The biggest secret in history is revealed: the truth about the arrival of the Big Dipper monster clan. When he saw this banner, Zhang Shisan was also stunned. He touched his chin and said, "When did my live stream become such a clickbait?" But this is the live stream room of the president, Zhang Yilin. Maybe there's something interesting. Zhang Shisan clicked on the live stream room. Damn, it's something interesting. But as he watched, Zhang Shisan suddenly sat up from the tiger skin sofa and slapped his thigh. He couldn't look away anymore. He sighed repeatedly. Damn. It turns out that the invasion of the Big Dipper monster clan was instigated by Han Ming of the Beihan sect. Damn. It turns out that Han Ming is playing a trick of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He wants to get rid of the Scorpio Divine Lord and other monsters, and he also wants to establish an image of a savior in front of the human race on Earth. It turns out that the human race on Earth has been fooled for so many years. This video was the imprint of the secret discussion between Han Ming and the Scorpio Divine Lord. The imprint was different from ordinary holographic videos. It had the residual fluctuations of the laws, so it couldn't be faked. Therefore, Zhang Shisan immediately knew that it was true. This news is undoubtedly subversive. Zhang Yilin is indeed Kong Teichu's cousin. She's so bold and domineering that she even dares to release such news. Are we going to fight again? My big saber is thirsty and thirsty again. Zhang Shishan was so shocked that he slapped his thigh in excitement. In fact, he wasn't the only one. Billions of cultivators and mortals on Earth were paying attention to this matter. Originally, there were many die-hard fans of Jiang Tian on Earth. When the Big Dipper Righteous Alliance arrived and began to seize power, constantly weakening Jiang Tian's influence, many cultivators and mortals were greatly dissatisfied. Although Han Ming Zongzi did it very secretly. Although Jiang Tian's supporters didn't know the inside story and couldn't find any relevant evidence. But there was always a faint feeling that the Big Dipper human cultivators were up to no good. Now, their various speculations had finally come to fruition. Did you know? It turns out that the Big Dipper human race and the Big Dipper monster clan are in cahoots. It's just that the Big Dipper monster clan was used as cannon fodder, and after occupying Earth, they were dealt with again. See, I've long said that the Big Dipper human race is up to no good. Look at the chairman's live stream room, there's something interesting. The plot twists don't be too exciting. When this heavy news was released, it could be said that a stone stirred up 1,000 ripples, and the entire world couldn't calm down. Zhang Yilin's live stream room instantly exploded, and the number of people online rose steadily, and finally reached more than 100 million people online at the same time. Moreover, there were people broadcasting, recording, or forwarding to Weibo, public accounts, and other platforms in the middle. Han Ming Zongzi of the Righteous Alliance is the culprit behind the Big Dipper monster clan's invasion of Earth in the past 2 years. In almost 5 minutes, this news had spread throughout Earth. Chapter 1720. Many cultivators and mortals didn't believe it at first. After all, Han Ming Zongzi and the other cultivators of the Alliance of Justice and Order were too good at disguising themselves. I don't believe it. It must be fake. A Foundation establishment cultivator shook his head. It said that the Kaiyang system in the Beidou sector is much bigger than the solar system. The spirit qi and cultivation resources are 10 or 100 times richer. Why would Han Ming Zongzi and the others from the Beidou sector covet Earth? It's like a true dragon swimming in the deep sea coveting the quagmire where a loach lives. We're just gauging the heart of a gentleman with our own mean measure. However, the Dharma artifact is a shadow left by the essence qi fluctuation. It can't be faked. It must be real. There's no need to discuss this anymore. Some cultivators argued. Even if this Dharma artifact is real, it can't prove Han Ming Zongzi's true intentions. Maybe it's just a strategic necessity. The previous Foundation establishment cultivator argued. Han Ming Zongzi is fully capable of occupying Earth, but he didn't do so. He just built some space cities in outer space or bought some concessions. If he wanted to occupy Earth, would he have stayed until now? Someone focused on how to obtain the Dharma artifact. This Dharma artifact should have been left by Lord Scorpio of the Beidou demon clan. How did it end up in Zhang Yilin's hands? Is she related to Lord Scorpio? If this is true, then we've really been used by the Alliance of Justice and Order. The Beidou demon clan is just cannon fodder. It doesn't matter if they die. But the demon clan of Earth once fought side by side with us against the invaders of the ruins of immortality on Mars. They died unjustly. Some cultivators had already begun to reflect. These discussions began in Zhang Yilin's livestream room. Soon, the relevant images were reposted on major Weibo, self-media, martial arts forums, and cultivator forums. The discussion further expanded and quickly grabbed the headlines of various media outlets. At this time, many puppets of the Alliance of Justice and Order had also received the news. However, it was impossible to stop and seal them. Soon, the Tianqing school made a public statement. We question the justice of the Alliance of Justice and Order. We demand all Beidou cultivators and the Alliance of Justice and Order to withdraw from all secret realms and even space cities on Earth. Following that, the Western Temple of God and the new 12 Lords of God also stood on Tianqing school's side. These were the new 12 chief gods that Queen Hera had groomed and selected before she had sacrificed herself. They were deeply influenced by Queen Hera and were also her staunch supporters. Immediately afterward, Ghost Emperor Lu Shang of Mount Mang, Dragon Chi Ao Bing of Mount Whitehead, Li Wuji represented the cultivation world of Huaxia, and Yingying Laozu represented the reclusive royalty. They all publicly announced one after another, requesting the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order to give an explanation and permanently withdraw from Earth before the cultivation world of Earth reached a consensus. I was once proud of Yingsu because he died in battle to protect Earth. But I didn't expect that the enemy he faced wasn't the real enemy. He's just a toy that some people use to play with the world. In order to protect our home and homeland, we do not hesitate to die. But we can't die without knowing why. Those who sat behind the scenes and enjoyed the fruits of others' labor, those who profited greatly from the war, must give a proper explanation. During the interview, Yingying Laozu burst into tears and angrily slammed the table. This was a great sorrow. They had thought that Yingsu and the others were fighting for lofty ideals, defending their home and fighting for justice. When the news of Yingsu's sacrifice came, although Yingying Laozu was sad, he also felt honored. As the saying went, loyal bones are buried everywhere in the mountains. Why should they be buried in the battlefield? Dying on the battlefield was the most glorious ending for a warrior. In fact, all the blood and sacrifices in this war were meaningless. They were just being used, schemed against, and made a wedding dress for others. The real culprit was hiding behind the scenes and even putting on the mantle of a messenger of justice. They were regarded as saviors and benefactors. This made Yingying Laozu feel that his intelligence had been insulted. If the so-called Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order didn't instigate and control behind the scenes, the Big Dipper monster clan wouldn't have invaded Earth. The human race and the monster cultivators on Earth wouldn't have died in battle in a foreign land, and we wouldn't have suffered heavy losses. Just the expulsion of Mars alone killed 2,000 cultivators on Earth. In the 2 years since the Big Dipper monster clan's invasion, how many people have been displaced? How many people have lost their homes? How many people have been separated from their families? Fight against our real enemy, the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order. Some cultivators shouted angrily. But they should be called the Evil Alliance. They're despicable and sinister. They're worse than robbery. Yes, they sold us out and made us count the money for them. They're despicable. Fight with them. Following the shout, many people agreed. As the discussion went on, they basically reached a consensus that the information imprinted in the image was true. The next step was to enter the strategy of how to deal with the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order. There were serious disagreements. In the battle with the Big Dipper Monster Clan, we also saw how powerful the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order is. They have more than a dozen soul formation cultivators and countless nascent soul cultivators. And they're all soul formation cultivators and nascent soul cultivators. How many soul formation cultivators are there on Earth? None. How can we fight with them? With our mouths? Under the agitation of the crowd, there were naturally many people who wanted to fight, but more people put forward opposing opinions to maintain their rationality. But we know that the enemy is the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order. Shouldn't we take revenge? Don't tell me you're going to swallow your anger and pretend that nothing happened. How can the souls of those Earth cultivators who died in the war rest in peace? We're talking and laughing with our enemies. If we don't take revenge, how can we face the world? Someone choked, full of grief and indignation. We have to fight, but not now. I used to admire Zhang Yilin's courage to publicly imprint the image. Women are not inferior to men. But now, I still think that she's too impulsive. She should draw a bow but not release it. She should plan slowly and secretly join forces. As the saying goes, build high walls and slowly proclaim kings. She should have been fully prepared. Now, we've alerted the enemy. The Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order knows that their scandal has been exposed and the cultivators on Earth are hostile. How can they not take action? They'll immediately change from the original policy of appeasement to a policy of suppression and extermination. Again, with the power of the cultivation world now, we can't even compare to a finger of the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order. Besides, they have the more powerful North Frost sect, the Mizang Galaxy and the Alcade Galaxy behind them. Both sides engaged in a battle of words, exchanging blows back and forth, neither giving way to the other as they tore into each other. But when someone said that, the entire public opinion went silent. Many people were speechless. That was the truth. The Big Dipper Alliance was too powerful. It was formed by the cultivators of the North Frost sect and many other divine sects. There were more than a dozen soul formation cultivators in total. Any one of them could defeat everyone on Earth. For example, King Geoffrey of Atlantis and King Saidi of the Pyramid were merely puppets nurtured by the alliance of justice and order. Yet they were still able to suppress Li Wuji, Sidu Shao, and even Lotus Old Relai. If only Kong Teichu were still here. Suddenly, someone who was drunk lamented with a dejected face. If Kong Teichu were here, the Big Dipper humans wouldn't have succeeded. They might even work with the Big Dipper monsters to kill the humans. Someone slammed the table in excitement. Back then, Kong Teichu was so powerful that he defeated all the worlds in the solar system and directly triggered the Spirit Chi revival. He planted the foundation of eternity on Earth and broke the deity trap array, allowing the entire Earth to enter a new era of Spirit Chi revival. Besides, Jiang Tian was very wise. No one could trick him, whether it was the famous preaching sects or the Tungus demons. He proposed that the mythical alliance should abandon the differences between the sects and unite the monsters and ghost cultivators, which was very prescient. It turned out that it was indeed so. The monsters on Earth weren't villains. Instead, they played an important role in suppressing the violent monsters and resisting the expeditionary army in the ruins of immortality. Later, they were completely wrongly killed. The humans of the Big Dipper humans looked similar to the humans on Earth, but they were evil people. However, people could only hope for a moment, because almost everyone thought that Jiang Tian must have died there after learning the truth about the ruins of immortality. And even if Jiang Tian came back alive, so what? A few years before the Spirit Chi revival, the eruption of Spirit Chi was the fiercest, and the cultivators improved the fastest. Kong Teichu had missed it. Besides, the Big Dipper cultivators were too strong. They belonged to an extraterrestrial civilization. How could Jiang Tian be a match for them? At this time, Geoffrey, the leader of the mythical alliance, the Pyramid King Sudi, and the King of Babylon, Ashur, all stood on the side of the Big Dipper alliance. They began to speak, support, and show their attitude. Since the arrival of the Big Dipper cultivators, the progress of the cultivation world on Earth is obvious to all. Zhang Yilin published this fake image of the brand, distorting the truth. We can't help but ask, what is your purpose? This image of the brand involves the Big Dipper monsters. We can't help but ask, where did you get it? Are you in cahoots with the Big Dipper monsters? In the old site of Babylon, in the secret realm of the Tower of Babel, the king of Ashur stepped out and shouted at Zhang Yilin. Chapter 1721. A person like Zhang Yilin who distorts the truth should be killed as a warning to the world. Beside the Nile River, at the top of the Black Pyramid, Pharaoh Sudi shouted to the audience in the livestream room. His face was cold and murderous. Now that Spirit Chi had recovered, cultivation was no longer mysterious and superior. Instead, it had become the mainstream of the new era and even the core and support of the operation of society. Under the great changes, the leaders of the Myth Alliance were also very close to the people. They often accepted media interviews and even set up live streams. They had many followers. Zhang Yilin has an ulterior motive. She's trying to confuse the public and destroy the great unity of the Big Dipper Alliance and the Myth Alliance. The Myth Alliance strongly condemns this and orders you to apologize to the Righteous Alliance. Otherwise, you will be arrested and convicted. In Atlantis, Geoffrey announced proudly with a very strong attitude. This was not an ordinary threat. He was speaking on behalf of the Myth Alliance. His words carried weight and he made the final decision. Even though some members of the Alliance had sacrificed themselves in the battle against the Big Dipper demon race, and even though Lotus, Old Rulai, Sidu Shao, and Li Wuji had been suppressed, There were also new talents in the cultivation world who had risen to the top. At this time, the Myth Alliance was still very strong. It was still the top cultivation organization on Earth. There were many nascent Soul Realm cultivators and countless Golden Core Realm cultivators. If the Myth Alliance wanted to take action, Zhang Yilin could not resist at all. In the livestream room, Zhang Yilin immediately responded to the shouts of the three new giants of the Myth Alliance. Have you forgotten the oath you made when the Myth Alliance was first established? 5 years ago, you guys were greedy for peace, obstructing the recovery of spiritual energy, or trying to seize control of the Myth Alliance. You guys fought a fierce battle with my cousin in Tunguska and were utterly defeated. You knelt and begged for mercy, calling yourselves Daoist ancestors. If it weren't for my cousin's mercy, you losers would have been reduced to ashes. Especially Jeffrey, he was even willing to acknowledge my cousin as his foster father, saying, "Long live my foster father," and swearing eternal loyalty. Now you've turned your back on us. You've thrown aside the Alliance declaration, purpose, and doctrine that you worshipped back then. You've disregarded your oath back then as bullshit. Do you have any shame? Zhang Yilin was a businesswoman to begin with, and she started her business by researching live streaming. She often negotiated business deals or hosted various events. Perhaps she was not good at cultivation, but when it came to talking, she had no problem taking on 3 or 4 people at once. All of a sudden, the live stream was flooded with messages. The fans were sending gifts like crazy, and the number of people online soared again. Some even went to Jeffrey and the other two's live stream to curse at them. 66666. What Mr. Zhang said makes sense. Well said. 100 flying swords. Awesome. It was too satisfying. I'll give him a spiritual grade flying boat. Jeffrey is shameless. He likes to be a godson. I heard that he's planning to become Han Ming Zongzi's godson. Jeffrey, let's not talk about you. Do you think you deserve to be the leader of the Myth Alliance? Even if you're the director of our neighborhood's public toilet, you're not qualified. Director Zhang has already taken out the image imprint artifact. The evidence is conclusive, yet these 3 old farts still want to quibble on behalf of the Big Dipper cultivator. Are you the Alliance Master and Vice Alliance Master of Myth Alliance? You're all just a bunch of bootlickers. The one with milk is the mother. Why don't you think about it? If the leader of the Tai Chu Alliance did not give them the status and opportunity to teach them cultivation techniques, would they be where they are today? Now, the leader of the Tai Chu Alliance has just left for a few days, and they're biting the hand that feeds them. They're shameless to the extreme. Faced with Zhang Yilin's sharp tongue, the 3 leaders of the new Myth Alliance were speechless. Especially when the netizens agreed with them, it made them even more furious. In the end, Pharaoh Seth, the Assyrian king of Babel, Jeffrey, and Zhang Yilin contacted them. Seth was the first to shed all pretense of cordiality. He snarled coldly, "Back then, Kong Techu used his power to oppress us. We had no choice but to put up with him and endure the humiliation. But now, it's no longer his time. Do you think that if Kong Techu looks back, you won't be afraid either?" Zhang Yilin asked with a half-smile. Seth smiled proudly and said, "I told you, this is no longer his time. We're all nascent soul cultivators now, and we're all nascent soul cultivators who have been taught by cultivators from other planets. Kong Techu is nothing compared to us." Very good. Very confident. I hope that when Kong Techu returns one day, you can still say the same thing in front of him. Zhang Yilin sneered. Of course, Seth was full of confidence. He was no longer the same as before. He didn't take Jiang Tian seriously at all. Not only him, the Assyrian king also spoke. "Ms. Zhang, you're too naive to ask this question. You probably don't know how powerful the Beidou cultivation civilization is. In terms of the difference in cultivation civilization, for example, Big Dipper is like Silicon Valley, which is flourishing with technology. On the other hand, Earth, including the orthodoxy of the Tianqing sect, is like the slash and burn cultivation in the primitive jungles of Africa." He was brimming with immense confidence and inflated to the extreme as he proudly said, Back then, Jiang Taichu seemed to be riding a motorcycle. Of course, it was much faster than us walking. For us to prostrate ourselves in worship, it is difficult for us to look up to him. But is a motorcycle the fastest? Don't forget that there are supersonic fighter jets and rockets. Unfortunately, the cultivation civilization of Big Dipper is a supersonic fighter jet. It's not something that Jiang Taichu, who rides a broken motorcycle, can compare to. There are thousands of principles in the world, but the biggest principle is that whoever has the biggest fist is right. In the eyes of the Beidou cultivators, and even in the eyes of us, Kong Taichu is just an ant. He looked at Jiang Tian with disdain, as if he were an ant under his feet. Ha, you don't know that in Kong Taichu's eyes, you are also ants. Zhang Yilin couldn't help but laugh. However, before the lid was about to be lifted, she would not say that Jiang Tian had already returned in a powerful manner. Let them jump around, the happier they jump, the better. Now was the best time to expose all the spies and traitors. Jeffrey, you called Kong Taichu your adoptive father. Aren't you afraid that Dad will beat you for betraying him like this? Zhang Yilin said mockingly. At the mention of acknowledging a thief as his father, Joffrey was so angry that his face turned red, then black, then white, before finally turning completely green. He said angrily, Wuxia once said, "The heavens don't disappoint those who work hard, and the heavens don't disappoint those who work hard." Isn't it the same for me? Father Aomu was killed by Jiang Taichu with his own hands. Think about it, if I had the slightest bit of conscience, how could I recognize Jiang Taichu, the person who killed my father, as my foster father? The answer is in that story. I took Jiang Taichu as my adoptive father in order to dissolve his enmity, so that I can take my revenge one day. I have never really surrendered to him. How could I betray him? Jeffrey said righteously. Very well. I hope you will remember what you said today and don't regret it. When Zhang Yilin ended the connection, she was on a flying boat. Nowadays, the development of Dharma artifacts such as crystal ships and flying swords had taken over the aerospace market. Jiang Tian had bought this flying ship in a small town at the foot of Hengduan Mountain. It was very affordable and was worth only a few million yuan. Besides, its speed was close to the speed of sound, which was enough for daily use. It also had an autopilot function, which allowed Jiang Tian to sit cross-legged and take a break. Jiang Tian was worried that the Beihan faction would find out about his whereabouts, so he used the strategy of swimming back to the sea. The Langyi Academy was disbanded and the disciples sneaked into other cities. The current Huaxia was too large for any orthodoxy or force to fully control. It was like spilling a glass of water in the desert. Even if the Beihan faction wanted to kill them, they could not do it quickly. She said to Jiang Tian, who was sitting in the passenger seat and looking at his phone, "Cousin, did you hear what they said? They are not human." In fact, I didn't trust Jeffrey, the king of Assyria, and Sudi. I wanted to get rid of them. Jiang Tian looked away from the electronic screen, looked at the clouds outside the window, and sighed helplessly. He sighed and said, "But gossip is a fearful thing. If I had killed them quickly, I would have killed them. People would have said that I was cruel and unscrupulous. They would have even cursed me to die a horrible death. But I didn't kill them. They betrayed me today." Of the many onlookers who were watching from the sidelines, some of them were on my side and hated them to the core. But some of them will say that I was too soft-hearted and indecisive. They said that I was not decisive enough and that they deserved it. Zhang Yilin nodded and said, "Yes, cousin. I also think that you are in a tough spot." As for Jiang Tian, he was flying to Gold City. The mythological alliances competition was going to be held. It was going to be held in Jin City. Ji Muxian, Ji Mingchuan, and almost all the sects in Huaxia would be there. The significance of Ji Muxian holding such an important exchange meeting in Jiang Tian's hometown was self-evident. It was to announce to the world. The new generation would replace the old. Jiang Tian's era was over. This is a good opportunity to kill them all. Jiang Tian flicked his finger as a cold glint flashed in his eyes as he thought to himself. Chapter 1722. The current mythology alliance included almost all the cultivation sects and clans, big and small. It didn't matter if they were new or old, martial arts, spells, or pure cultivation. The latest competition of the Myth Alliance was held in Jin City. When the news spread, it immediately caused an uproar and many speculated. They purposely held it in Kong Teichu's hometown. But Kong Teichu's forces, other than the Tianqing School and Sidoni Dojo, are not much left. Isn't this a slap to Kong Teichu's face? Isn't that so? Now, the old cultivation forces in Wuxia have been replaced by some new orthodoxies. For example, the Boundless Dojo, the Snow God's Palace, the Desolation Temple, the Arctic Academy, and so on are all supported by the Boundless Sect and the Snow God's Palace. There are many nascent soul cultivators. Not to mention that the Freezing North Sect is behind him. Now, Kong Teichu's forces have almost withdrawn from Wuxia and are entrenched in Sidoni. If they were to lose their last piece of territory, Tianqing School will completely disappear from this world. Yeah, back then, the strongest under Kong Teichu's command were only Zhenlong, Hades, and Lotus. In terms of cultivation, they were only in the nascent soul realm. The rest were Kong Teichu and a few other core formation cultivators. And the kind that has no grade. Unlike now, the orthodoxies are too prosperous. This should be the last competition of the Myth Alliance. The previous few times, the Tianqing sect had been defeated in the grand competition. If they lose again, they will lose 10 times in a row. Tianqing School will not be able to raise its head in the future. What a pity! The disciples of Tianqing School are too loyal and honest. In order to protect Earth, the three giants, Yi Tianren and Huaqing Tian, and so on, have all died on Mars. Otherwise, they might not have lost control of the Myth Alliance. Many people sighed regretfully. If only Kong Teichu was still here. Someone couldn't help but sigh. But immediately, there were rebuttals from below. Stop dreaming. Kong Teichu had already died in the ruins of immortality. He was only a golden core cultivator back then. It was difficult for him to challenge a nascent soul cultivator, let alone a soul formation cultivator. Do you know how many nascent soul cultivators there are in the ruins of immortality? There were at least 10,000 people. More than 100 semi-god realm warriors. Besides, even if Jiang Taichu comes back with his strength, can the trash golden core cultivators like Yu Wendon, Gu Hu, and Arthur be compared to the new nascent soul cultivators like Zhang Huaiyan, Shi Jinglei, Xing Yilong, and Yang Chen? I heard that they are all 9th stage nascent soul realm cultivators. They will definitely reach the divinity transformation realm in the future. Not even nuclear weapons could kill them. Looking at the deeds of these people, they really have the intention of calling themselves the kings of the South because they have no ability at all. 5 supreme powerhouses, 5 heavenly lords my ass. In front of my cousin, all of them are ashes. Zhang Yilin waved her fist angrily and said hatefully, "Brother, after seeing the shameless faces of those giants of the mythological alliance today, I really can't stand it. Especially Qi Jinglei, Xing Yilong, Yang Chen, and the others, they are crazily scolding me in the live broadcast. You have to stand up for me, otherwise, I can't live anymore." Although she was a strong woman in the workplace, she was still a little girl in front of Jiang Tian, who said whatever was on her mind and was unscrupulous. It was probably because she had gone through hardships with Jiang Tian, so she was especially confident in this family relationship. I have to arrange it. Jiang Tian had only been back for a few days, but now he had learned some popular words on Earth. Jin City was now very prosperous. It had become a giant city that had both a sense of technology and cultivation. It was also a harmonious city. In the sky, flying boats came one after another, and flying swords streaked across the sky. They were gathered from all over the country and even the world. The exchange of the mythological alliance this time was organized by the Kunlun sect, and its influence was not small. Kunlun Building. Located by the Qinhuai River, it was the new landmark building of Gold City. It was more than 1,000 meters tall and had more than 200 floors, known as the tallest building in Gold City. The boss's background was very mysterious. It was said that there was a real nascent soul heavenly lord behind him. Even the most arrogant young masters of Gold City would not dare to be presumptuous when they came here. Even a dragon would have to lie low, and even a fierce tiger would have to hide its claws and teeth. And the official hotel of the exchange event was here. Nowadays, martial artists and cultivators had reached the highest level. They could fly in the sky and burrow underground, and they were also very destructive. A golden core cultivator could easily destroy a city, not to mention a nascent soul cultivator. Therefore, the competition was held at a military training ground dozens of kilometers away from the hotel. At this time, the entrance of the Kunlun building was flashing nonstop. Luxury cars drove over one after another, and all sorts of men and women in suits and evening gowns walked out of them. Many media reporters even blocked the entrance of the building. It's Li Huiyan. She's the most popular celebrity in Wuxia and the world. I didn't expect her to be here too. I even heard that the young master of Zhang Huayan's family once expressed his love for her. Li Jinju, the goddess of South Korea, is here too. I heard that many golden core perfected cultivators are her fanatical admirers and pursuers. Not only does she control the Star Moon Group, the biggest conglomerate in South Korea, but she's also an all-round actress in the film industry. The reporters talked to each other excitedly as they took photos. Not only were there cultivators, but there were also rich and powerful people. There were even some celebrities and artists who were there to embellish the event. Although the grand competition was the core of this so-called exchange event, the merging of various interests, the intertwining of connections, and the facilitation of transactions were also important contents. It's so lively here. Jiang Tian walked among the crowd in the building. He was wearing an old robe and a pair of sunglasses. He had also changed his appearance with the art of deceiving the heavens. Zhang Yilin, who had also changed her appearance with a secret art, walked among the crowd. Chapter 1723. Not only were there cultivators, but there were also many tycoons and sect masters among the guests. Is that Shen Xiong, the young CEO of the Beihuang Mineral Group, the top mining magnate in Wuxia? I heard that 50% of the spirit stone mines in Wuxia are controlled and developed by him. He's so rich that even Rockefeller and the Middle Eastern oil giants have been bought by him. They can't even compare to him. Lu Qingho, the young CEO of the Green Bird Group. The Green Bird Group is currently the world's top flying boat manufacturer and has the technical support of the Beihan sect. It's enough to be on par with the artifact refining technology of the Sidoni Academy of Sciences. Yeah, I heard that the Green Bird Group has already bought Boeing. So many tycoons are here? It seems that they're taking this competition very seriously. As the tycoons walked in, the scene was in an uproar again. Many people were discussing. It's more than that. This is a big deal for the cultivation world in Wuxia. Do you think these competitions are a joke? They're all about the stakes. Tianqing School's dojos, such as Amei and Diansong, have all lost in the previous competitions. Now, only the 100 Medicine Valley is left. Once Tianqing School fails again, it will mean that the Tianqing School's dojos in Wuxia will be completely defeated and can only withdraw. A reporter who knew the inside story said calmly, Tianqing School has declined after all. This is the cruelty of the era of great change. If you're not careful, you'll be abandoned by the era and can't keep up anymore. Everyone was discussing and lamenting. Could be said that this era was even more shocking than the reform and opening up of Wuxia in the last century. Every day, there would be people breaking through to the foundation establishment, golden core, and even nascent soul level. Every day, new cultivation arts were created and new dojos, sects and forces were formed. There were all kinds of people and there were all kinds of changes. But it's the Zhang family of the Kunlun group. They're here too. He seems to be the famous young master of the Zhang family, Zhang Kai, right? Suddenly, someone exclaimed. Everyone's eyes narrowed as they opened their eyes to look. They saw a tall and handsome young man, surrounded by many tycoons and celebrities, walk over arrogantly. His figure was tall and slender, and there was a faint divine light flickering in his eyes. Everyone who had seen this man before couldn't help but give way to him, their faces filled with respect. Even the leaders of the top families in the country were afraid and didn't dare to act rashly. Kunlun's Zhang family? How awe-inspiring! A reporter snorted coldly. What can we do? Behind him stood the Kunlun sect's Ji Muxian, as well as the Dragon Lake's Zhang Huayan clan. The Kunlun sect and Zhang Huayan jointly invested in the Kunlun group. Someone said helplessly, "Now, who dares to provoke the Kunlun sect's Ji Muxian and the Dragon Slayer clan's Zhang Huayan clan?" In the beginning, the Zhang Huayan clan had kept a low profile. But after the recovery of spirit qi, they began to rise. Especially after they received the support of the Beihan sect, they became the vanguard of killing monsters and killed many dragons and werewolves. By then, they had taken over the Dragon Lake in Changbai Mountain and were known as the Dragon Slayer clan. Then, the Qi family of Shanghai, who represented the Wuya Arena, and the Zheng family of East Sea, who represented the Desolation Temple, came one after another. They all had one thing in common. They were backed by the Beihan sect and the Righteous Alliance and had obtained the art of Beidou. In the new era, these new families were thriving and their wealth was comparable to that of a country. They were far more powerful than the Zhang Jinghua clan, the Yi family, the Song family, the Lu family and the Mo family of Yanjin. This is strange. Why aren't Zhang Huayan and Ji Muxian here? A reporter was puzzled. He wanted to get some important news. He's a peerless overlord standing at the top of Wuxia. He's a nascent soul heavenly lord, just like a real deity. If they wanted to communicate, they could only do it on the clouds. How could they do it in the boundless secular world? Disregarding everything else, even a golden core cultivator could reach a height of 100 meters if he unleashed his Dharma idol slightly. Wouldn't the Kunlun building collapse? Another reporter laughed. Wait a minute. In the banquet hall, Jiang Tian and Zhang Yilin were strolling around and eating when suddenly Jiang Tian's arm was pulled by someone. Jiang Tian came back to his senses and saw Li Huiyan looking at him deeply. Her eyes were filled with panic and there were a few tears in them. At this moment, countless people looked at Jiang Tian with jealousy. Li Huiyan had always been clean and had never been involved in any scandals. But now, she had taken the initiative to grab a man's arm. Besides, the man's appearance and temperament were ordinary. What did he do? Is my art of creation really that bad? How did she recognize me? Jiang Tian thought to himself, but his face was calm. He smiled and said, "Miss Li Huiyan, why are you looking for me?" Deliberately, his voice became very dry and hoarse. "I'm sorry. I mistook you for someone else. Your back is very similar to a friend of mine, including this lady." Li Huiyan smiled awkwardly but politely and said softly. Next to her, Li Huiyan's good sister, Tang Yuyu, who was in the same brokerage company, showed a little unbearable expression and sighed softly. "Sister Huiyan, you miss him too much." But everyone said that he had died in. Nonsense. He won't die. Hearing this, Li Huiyan seemed to have been seriously stimulated. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and she stared at Tang Yuyu fiercely. Zhao Chenzi, who was almost middle-aged and more charming, said, "You, don't you know that the first sister doesn't allow anyone to say that? Apologize." "Sister Huiyan, don't be angry. I'm sorry. I'm talking nonsense." Tang Yu took a step back in fright. Li Huiyan eased his tone, but his expression was firm. "I have a feeling that he is still alive." The next moment, she looked at Lu Yun outside the building in a daze and started sobbing silently. Seeing this, Zhao Chenzi couldn't help but sigh. After handing over a paper towel, he didn't dare to disturb. Since Jiang Tian left. In recent years, Li Huiyan's star road has been smooth. She has starred in several big Hollywood productions. She is known as the national goddess and one of the top female stars in the world. But it's a little emotional magic, almost sick. Every day, I miss Jiang Tian and collect all the news about him. At this time, Tang Yu suddenly exclaimed, "No, Zhang Xiao of Kunlun Group is here." Hearing this, Li Huiyan and Zhao Chenzi's faces changed greatly. Jiang Tian also looked at it casually. Surrounded by a group of people, Zhang Kai, the eldest son of Kunlun Group, walked quickly. For example, Chen Xiong, the young director of Northern Wilderness Mining, and Lu Qingho, the young director of Qingyao Group, could only stand behind him as followers. Li Fifan, the crown prince of Xinzhou, and Mo Yuza, the head of Mo family in Yanjing, who had met Jiang Tian several times, could only stand at the end of the entourage. They were not even qualified to approach Zhang Kai. How could he appear here? Logically speaking, with his identity, he should go to the top floor. Everyone exclaimed. In any era, there was a clear distinction and a strict hierarchy. The party on the top floor was the high-end party. Those who participated were all nascent soul cultivators, masters of secret realms, masters of dojos, and so on. That was the top of the pyramid that controlled this era. Before, Zhang Kai went straight to the top floor and didn't come here. I'm afraid he's here for Li Huiyan? Suddenly, a gossip reporter thought of a rumor and instantly realized. He quickly raised his camera and shot. Chapter 1724. Li Xianlong has passed away and Li Fifan is the lord of the Li family. Mo Yuza is also the lord of the Mo family in Yanjin and has great influence in the mortal world. However, the two of them have joined the New Myth Alliance and Jeffrey. They are also close to the 5 heavenly lords and their henchmen in Wuxia. Seeing that Jiang Tian had noticed Zhang Kai and the others, Zhang Yilin hurried to explain. Oh! Jiang Tian nodded and didn't say anything. Zhang Kai's long black hair hung loosely on his shoulders, his figure was tall and healthy, and he had an imposing appearance. He walked over with a majestic gait, and his gaze was filled with might. He was releasing the energy of a golden core cultivator, which indicated that he was already a perfected cultivator. Everyone who attended the banquet bowed one after another when they saw this. This is Zhang Kai, the grandson of Zhang Huaiyan. He has formed an 8th grade golden core and has a high chance of becoming a nascent soul cultivator. He is also one of the most outstanding members of the Zhang family and the controller of the Kunlun building. Seeing Zhang Kai, Zhang Yilin showed a bit of resentment and said coldly, he has fought with the Tianqing school many times. Even Sister Mange was defeated by him. The Snow God Palace bought my videos and watched my live stream. He is also behind it. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. His eyes darkened as he looked at the gloomy sky outside the window. He didn't care about Zhang Kai at all. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian sipped his wine and waited for Ji Muxian and the other nascent soul heavenly lords to arrive. For him, the real battlefield was in heaven, not in this banquet. At that moment, Zhang Kai ignored the crowd and walked directly toward Li Huiyan. They didn't even have the right to be angry. He had a powerful background and was a golden core perfected cultivator. What was a rich man in the mortal world? He was like an ant. He could crush him easily. I heard that he likes Li Huiyan a lot. Li Huiyan is so lucky. She's just an actress and an ordinary person. How can she win young Master Zhang's attention? She's so lucky. Seeing him walk towards Li Huiyan, this scene caused a lot of discussion. Many people, especially women, were envious and jealous. Ms. Li, the Kunlun Group has invested in the Spirit Chi revival movie, Great Lord of Heaven, and invited you to be the female lead. This is the 3rd time I've invited you. I don't think you'll refuse, right? Zhang Kai walked up to Li Huiyan and said with a smile that wasn't a smile. Well, it was said that the investment for that movie was as huge as 10 billion yuan. It was known as the biggest investment in history. So, Li Huiyan was invited for the lead role. It seems like she rejected it before? Li Huiyan is so lucky to be able to win Zhang Kai's favor and get the biggest blockbuster movie in history. The hottest movie theme right now is undoubtedly the revival of spiritual energy. In addition to the performances of true cultivators and true demonic beasts, it's simply too explosive. At the side, everyone's gazes were cast on Li Huiyan, as if they were about to spew fire. At this moment, Li Huiyan was tall with a pair of 120 centimeters long legs. Coupled with strappy high heels, she looked even taller and stood out from the crowd. Her exquisite makeup and otherworldly temperament instantly stole the limelight of everyone present. "Sorry, I'm not interested." Everyone thought that Li Huiyan would agree. However, they didn't expect that she would refuse without hesitation. Her face was cold, and she kept people thousands of miles away. Everyone was puzzled and surprised, and even Tang Yuyu was stunned. Only Zhao Chunzi had some understanding in his heart, because this great Lord of Heaven alluded to reality very seriously, but it erased all of Jiang Tian's contributions to the revival of spiritual energy. After Li Huiyan read the script, she was furious. How could she participate in the performance? Zhang Kai's face stiffened, but he didn't speak. "Li Huiyan, no one in Wuxia dares to not give face to my master again and again. Even if it's for my master's sake, you'll be fine. But your colleagues, friends, and even your agency may not be fine." Behind him, an old man in sackcloth walked out and said threateningly, "Are you threatening me?" Li Huiyan's face was unhappy as she snorted. "So what if I'm threatening you?" The old servant in sackcloth said proudly. He was a member of the dragon-slaying Zhang family. Even if he was just a servant, he didn't care about worldly people. Even if it was a superstar or a tycoon, they were nothing but ants in front of a cultivator. "Do you know that I'm already at the foundation establishment level now? Killing you is as easy as killing a chicken." Suddenly, he released his energy and pressure. He originally had chicken skin and a crane head. His figure was stooped, and he looked old and ordinary. But all of a sudden, he gave people the feeling that he was a towering mountain. The pressure that came from him filled 100 meters, suffocating everyone and making them shudder with fear. Sky immortals are terrifying. Everyone was shocked and stepped back. At this time, the old servant in sackcloth's eyes shone and his true essence surged like a wave. He was apparently an overlord at the third level of the foundation establishment level. The third level of the foundation establishment level was called Sky Immortal, before the revival of spiritual energy. When the Immortal entrapment array existed on Earth, Sky Immortal was the limit of cultivation and the peak of martial arts. Otherwise, they would trigger the Immortal entrapment array and die without a doubt. Back then, the great celestial Yi was still a hair's breadth away from this realm, not completely reaching it. Although there were many more foundation establishment cultivators after the revival of spirit Qi, a Sky Immortal was still not to be underestimated. They were usually the overlords of a city in Wuxia. However, the old man in sackcloth, a Sky Immortal, was just a servant in front of Zhang Kai. "Ah, the dragon-slaying Zhang family is too terrifying. I heard that they used to be members of the insects in the secret land and have 1,000 years of foundation. They also have the support and guidance of the Beidou cultivators. No one can stop them now." An immortal state overlord exclaimed. "Li Huiyan might not give in. She's Kong Teichu's friend." But there were also people who thought otherwise. Then, a young man who was talking to other tycoons noticed this and quickly walked over. Jiang Tian knew him. Bai Chufei. He used to be one of the 4 young masters in Yangcheng. Later, he followed Jiang Tian and was also the chairman of Tiange Entertainment and Li Huiyan's boss. Bai Chufei, who was already middle-aged and appeared even more resolute and steady, revealed a somewhat angry expression. He asked coldly, "Li Huiyan and Tiange Entertainment are under the protection of Tianqing sect. Your Excellency, are you threatening them in public because you want to start a war with Tianqing sect?" "Humph," the old man in sackcloth said disdainfully. "Bai Chufei, since we're old acquaintances, I'll remind you. Now, Wuxia is no longer the world of Tianqing School. After today, all the dojos of Tianqing School will change owners and withdraw from Wuxia. Also, Lord Jeffrey of the Myth Alliance will also force Tianqing School to kill demons and sign the agreement. If they don't obey, they will be trampled to death. A gentleman doesn't stand under a dangerous wall. Tianqing School can't do it, but you still cling to their thighs and resist the Dragon Slayer Zhang family. Do you want to live too long?" He just snorted, and Bai Qiufei seemed to have been hit hard. His face was pale, and he stumbled back a few steps. "Boss, are you okay?" Zhao Chunzi and Tang Yuyu hurriedly supported him, only to see that his 7 orifices were bleeding. It was a shocking sight. At that moment, the old servant in sackcloth had already used his spiritual awareness to seriously injure Bai Qiufei. Bai Qiufei had also cultivated, but he was just an ordinary qi refining cultivator. There was still a big gap between him and the old servant in sackcloth who was in the Zhuji phase. It was like a 3-year-old child meeting an adult giant. Vulnerable. The old servant in sackcloth showed a sarcastic smile, then slightly leaned to the side, made a please gesture, and said with a smile, "Please, Miss Li, don't embarrass the old man, and don't let young Master Zhang wait for a long time. Huyan, don't go." Bai Qiufei struggled to get up, but he immediately vomited blood and his body was on the verge of collapse. He had just been hit hard by the old servant in sackcloth, and standing up was already his limit. Li Huiyan stood there alone, as if there was nothing she could do, and she could only accept her fate. The people between Li Huiyan and Zhang Kai all avoided and tried to curry favor with the Zhang family. No one dared to help Li Huiyan and Bai Qiufei. Behind Zhang Kai stood the dragon slayer Zhang family, a nascent soul great lord of heaven. Who dared to provoke him? Tang Yuyu was so anxious that her eyes were red, and she was about to cry. Zhao Chunzi sighed, but there was nothing he could do. Just as Li Huiyan slowly raised her head and was about to refute. Next to her, a light and leisurely voice suddenly came. "Huiyan told you to get out. Get out of here quickly. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Are you looking for death?" Chapter 1725. Everyone fell silent. The entire place was deathly silent. Countless people couldn't even make the slightest sound. Countless people looked at the source of the voice. A young man in an old robe was swirling a glass of red wine. This young man had gray hair and an ordinary face, like a drop of water in the sea. No one would notice him. Who is this? How dare he go against the Zhang family? Does he want to die? In an instant, the same thought appeared in many people's minds, as if they were looking at a short-lived ghost. "Aunt, do you know that there are some things you can't interfere with?" The hemp-clothed old servant laughed proudly with his hands behind his back. He was a dog that relied on its master's power. He was deliberately imitating Jiang Tian's movements and posture. Even though he was a member of the hidden sects, he had paid close attention to Jiang Tian back when he dominated the entire world and suppressed the various multidimensional worlds in the solar system. Jiang Tian had still left a deep impression on him, making him revere him and wish that he could be in Jiang Tian's place. However, his imitation was always a bit deliberate. Without Jiang Tian's experience, he was like a 3-year-old child pretending to be an adult. He was petty and ignorant, trying to be a tiger but ended up being a dog. This was probably his current state. "Dog slave, who do you think you are? Even your ancestral patriarch Zhang Huairen doesn't have the right to be so arrogant in front of me." Jiang Tian walked over leisurely and sneered. Everyone dispersed as if they were avoiding the plague, and they opened up a path for him. They all looked at Jiang Tian with gazes of surprise, pity, and bewilderment. Where did this idiot come from? How dare he challenge the dignity of the Zhang family? Was there something wrong with his head? "You're courting death." Zhang Kai was furious and his eyes were full of murderous intent. In his heart, Patriarch Zhang Huairen was an existence akin to a Buddha. How could he allow others to blaspheme him? At this moment, he wanted to kill Jiang Tian on the spot. But he still held it in. The purpose of this exchange event was to deal with Tianqing School. It wasn't good to complicate things. Of course, he wouldn't really let Jiang Tian go. When Jiang Tian was alone, he could naturally make a move. For you. The old man carefully sized up Jiang Tian and suddenly felt that Jiang Tian was very familiar. "You are not worthy of me answering your question." Jiang Tian continued to walk closer. The old man scanned Jiang Tian with his divine sense, only to find that Jiang Tian's body was empty, no different from a mortal's. his eyes were filled with contempt as he said coldly, "If it weren't for young Master Zhang, there wouldn't be any accidents today. I'll definitely twist off your head and kick it like a ball." With that, he ignored Jiang Tian completely. He stared at Li Huiyan with a pair of sharp and cold eyes and said in a serious tone, "Miss Li, how long are you going to keep young Master Zhang waiting?" It was a clear threat. "Your arrogance and confidence is really like him. Unfortunately, you're not him, and you don't have his abilities. No one in this world can save me." Li Huiyan withdrew her gaze from Jiang Tian. Her eyes were filled with despair as she sighed regretfully. Zhang Kai couldn't wait any longer. He looked at the time and said leisurely, "I'll go up first. Linen, remember to take her to the top floor." With that, he turned around and was about to leave. "Li Huiyan, you're shameless. Don't blame this old man for offending you." The old man in linen had finally lost his patience. His face was ferocious and his eyes were cold. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed at Li Huiyan's neck like an eagle's claw. Sizzle! Sizzle! The air was filled with the sound of his claw. That claw could pierce through gold and iron. If it hit, even an immortal state overlord would not be able to withstand it, let alone an ordinary person like Li Huiyan. Although Li Huiyan had a protective talisman, she could not withstand the attack of a sky immortal. Countless people felt a chill down their spines when they saw this. Sigh, the cultivation world is like a primitive jungle. The strong are respected and the weak are like ants. Li Huiyuan's backer is Kong Teichu, but now that she has lost her backer, what can she do? She used to be powerful with Kong Teichu's help and no one in the world dared to offend her. Now that Kong Teichu is gone, she's not even worth mentioning. She doesn't know what's good for her. Looks like Zhang Kai only sees her as a toy. Even if he doesn't destroy her, he will definitely humiliate her. At this moment, everyone's expression was different. Some sighed regretfully, some mocked and some gloated. "Do you think I'm joking?" Right at this moment, everyone saw the gray-haired youth actually take another step forward, and they couldn't help but reveal strange expressions. This person was courting death again and again. I said, "Get lost." Jiang Tiantian's words were very calm, but to the elder in the linen robe, it was like a clap of thunder. Dragon demonic roar. Jiang Tian had activated this divine power when he was at the Qi refinement stage. However, Jiang Tian was now a nascent soul heavenly lord and a divine-grade nascent soul. When he used this divine power, it was more than 100 times more powerful than before. The old man in linen was startled. He felt as if 10,000 cannonballs had exploded in his ears. The sound waves were mixed with terrifying true essence and blasted into his ears, nose, mouth, and organs. His body shook violently and blood spurted out from his nose, and mouth like arrows. But the next second, he knew that it was an understatement to call it a cannonball. The horrifying Jinyuan vibrated once again, and the old man's skin rippled like water as horrifying cracks appeared all over his skin. Then his muscle fibers floated up like silk, and finally his body exploded, turning into a mass of blood mist that filled the air. What? The power of his words is terrifying. Everyone was baffled, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Jiang Tian's sound wave attack was only aimed at the old man in linen. It was like a high-pressure water gun that didn't leak at all. In everyone's eyes, Jiang Tian had only said one sentence calmly and the old man in linen, a third-level foundation establishment sky immortal, exploded in the air. HM? A sound wave attack. A cultivator? Only Zhang Kai's expression changed abruptly as he stared at Jiang Tian with a pair of eyes that were as sharp as swords. So it's a cultivator who uses sound wave attacks? He actually killed a third-level nascent soul celestial immortal so casually. Is he a golden core perfected cultivator? Only when they heard this did everyone realize that all of this was done by Jiang Tian, and they couldn't help but gasp as they were extremely shocked. He's so handsome, and he's a very powerful cultivator. Perfect. Tang Yuyu stared at Jiang Tian with her beautiful eyes full of worship. She couldn't wait to throw herself into Jiang Tian's arms. Who is this person? Although he has good intentions, he's too reckless. Zhao Chenzi was a little worried. It's him. It must be him. It's Jiang Tian. A person's appearance can be changed, but habitual movements and temperament are difficult to change. At this time, Li Huiyan looked at Jiang Tian carefully and suddenly understood. Her heart was filled with excitement and moved, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Chapter 1726. Li Huiyan was a professional actress who had learned micro-expressions from a specially hired teacher. She could tell whether a person was real or not based on their micro-expressions, movements, and behavior. Veterans don't even need to see you in person. They can recognize you just by looking at your back. When Li Huiyan first saw him, she also felt that he was similar to Jiang Tian, but he wasn't Jiang Tian. He was much older than Jiang Tian. However, she found that he was exactly the same as Jiang Tian, except that he was taller and had white hair. The distance of his footsteps, the way he walked and the way he held his hands behind his back were almost identical to Jiang Tian. She was sure that he was Jiang Tian, but she didn't say anything. She knew that Jiang Tian wasn't an ordinary person. Every word and action of his contained deep meaning. Since he had changed his appearance and concealed his identity, he must have his reasons. Naturally, she couldn't expose him. Do you think the Golden Core Cultivator is qualified to challenge the dragon-slaying Zhang family? You should know that he is backed by a nascent soul heavenly lord. He's a talented person since he can reach the Golden Core level. However, he didn't know how terrifying the background of the Zhang clan was. What he did is like hitting a stone with an egg. Jiang Tian killed with a single sentence, shocking everyone present. But more people didn't think so. The dragon-slaying Zhang family was one of the top forces in Wuxia and had more than one nascent soul heavenly lord. Even if they weren't afraid of Zhang Kai, they still had to show some respect to the dragon-slaying Zhang family. However, Jiang Tian had killed Zhang Kai's personal servant just because of a disagreement. That was undoubtedly a slap in the face. How could he tolerate it? As expected. Soon, Zhang Kai's face became cold. The murderous intent in his eyes was as sharp as a sword. He stared at Jiang Tian and said, "Who are you? Don't you know the name of the dragon-slaying Zhang family?" The dragon-slaying Zhang family? Jiang Tian smiled and said disdainfully, "How dare you use this name to scare people? You should feel ashamed. What sins did Ao Bing of Dragonpool's lineage commit for you to kill him? He's a demon. He should be killed." Zhang Kai said matter-of-factly, "How dare you speak up for the demon race? Don't you know that the Global Mythological Alliance has already listed the shifters as a must-kill? The Big Dipper Righteous Alliance has also declared war on the shifters. It was common knowledge that the demon clan was the greatest enemy of the human clan. If word of this gets out, you'll definitely die. You're courting death. If word of this gets out, the human cultivators will gang up on you and tear you to pieces." The other cultivators also looked at Jiang Tian with mocking expressions. "Demons should be killed?" Jiang Tian said indifferently, "Let me ask you. When the cultivators from the ruins of immortality landed on Mars and began to march to Earth, Ao Bing's bloodline, Alexander's bloodline, and the mermen of the Bermuda Delta all fought. Where were you at that time?" Zhang Kai was dumbfounded, speechless. That day, when the Divine General led the expedition to the ruins of immortality to Mars and was about to attack Earth, the Myth Alliance and Zhao Xueqing had issued a call for all cultivators above the Golden Core level to participate in the battle on Mars. In fact, the Zhang family was also paying attention at that time. However, they were all selfish and didn't want to get into trouble with the ruins of immortality, so they all hid. It could be said that the Zhang family didn't make any contributions in the battle of the ruins of immortality. On the contrary, many demons were able to withstand the harsh environment because of their special bloodlines and physiques, so they shone in the battle on Mars. Ao Bing even killed more than 20 nascent soul cultivators in a row. It could be said that his contribution was great. But in the end, because of the manipulation of the Righteous Alliance, the Dragon Pool Demon King Ao Bing and all the demons on Earth became the target of public criticism. They were surrounded and killed by many forces. Their entire family died tragically. The Zhang clan had actually taken over the nest of a magpie and occupied the Dragon Lake. They had even shamelessly given themselves the title of the Dragon Slayer clan. Let me ask you again. Since the establishment of the Myth Alliance, have the demons on Earth hurt any human? Have they bullied the weak? Jiang Tian took another step forward and asked coldly. Well, everyone, including Zhang Kai, was surprised again. After the establishment of the Myth Alliance, the demons had regarded the declaration of the Myth Alliance as a standard and had indeed not killed any human. Even when the violent demon beasts invaded the cities, the demons had already stood on the side of humans and fought to the end. In those 2 years, more than tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of demons had died in battle to protect humans. But you, Jiang Tian took another step forward and mocked. Some so-called humans have long forgotten the oath spread when the Myth Alliance was established. The strong fight for the weak. All the creatures on Earth are a community with a shared future. You are heartless and vicious. You have attacked your comrades. You have disregarded human lives and bullied the weak. You have turned a vigorous and orderly society into hell and a primitive jungle. You are not as good as the demons. With every sentence Jiang Tian said, he took a step forward. After a few sentences, he had already walked to the center of the field and faced Zhang Kai, looking down at him as if he were an ant. How dare you speak for the demons? You are a traitor to humanity. Zhang Kai did not want to argue. His murderous intent was exposed as he coldly said, I'll kill you to tell the world what the consequences of colluding with the demons are. Zhang Kai pointed at the vast sky outside the window and said aggressively, This place is too narrow. Let's go. This place is too narrow and restricts our movements. If you have the guts, then come with me to that vast world and fight to your heart's content. But are they going to fight this time? The old man in a linen robe killed a Foundation establishment Sky Immortal with a snap of his fingers. It's rare to see a battle between 2 golden core perfected cultivators. Broadcast it. When they saw Jiang Tian and the old man in a linen robe fighting, many reporters immediately swarmed over like flies smelling blood. Those who watched the live stream also started to do so, which attracted countless netizens. This exchange meeting had already attracted a lot of attention. There were many people watching it in the venue and even in the live stream rooms. Now, there was another conflict, and it was related to Li Huiyan and the dragon-slaying Zhang family. It instantly set off a huge wave. All the netizens on the internet rushed to the live broadcast room. Well, someone is challenging the dragon-slaying Zhang clan's young master Zhang Kai for Li Huiyan? Tell me who's there. Who's streaming? I want to see it. In the camera, Jiang Tian was wearing a long robe and a pair of sunglasses. He was surrounded by Li Huiyan and a few other national goddesses. He stepped on the old man's blood-stained head and faced Zhang Kai, the young master of the Zhang family. It was indeed eye-catching. When people heard that Zhang Kai had challenged Jiang Tian, the audience, as well as all the live stream rooms, fell silent. Even the bullet screen disappeared. Everyone's expression changed as they looked at Jiang Tian, anticipating his strong reaction. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.